The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All of a sudden, they just went out of their cars and came advancing towards us. The first white policeman threw a tear gas. It was the first time we saw a tear gas can. We didn't know even what it was. So when we saw it emitting smoke, we dispersed. And when we came back again. Maybe we thought they would talk to us through a loudspeaker or something like that. All of a sudden, the same policeman who threw the tear gas canister opened fire on the students. I was with Hector Peterson when he was shot. The boy who was in that picture where a boy was carrying. He was the first student I saw going down. I saw him being shot on the head and he fell down. I could not believe it. I saw a boy of about 11 going down under police fire. I could not believe it. Apparently, when Hector was shot, the students ran back and I was left with Hector and a girl. I was feeling scared and I wanted to run away too. And this policeman was aiming his gun at Hector again, wanting to finish him off. And this girl stood in front of Hector and told the policeman in Afrikaans that skit for me, shoot for me. And the policeman deviated his aim and shot in the air. And then we took that Hector and gave him to some boys and they took him to the car, which appeared in those pics in the UBJ bulletin.
Our song says that the burden of oppression is heavy. Men and women are needed. Prison and death will not deter us. We will continue to struggle until we have won our freedom.
Well, these are the kind of songs that automatically conjure up certain images of a particular place, a particular time in our society. Today is the 16th of June, and as always, as we do every single year, we're commemorating the 1976 youth uprisings, and it is Youth Day in South Africa. You're listening to The Talking Point. A very good morning, a pleasure to be in your company this morning. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana, and as always, we'll be with you until midday. Today's special because I'm not the only one behind the microphone, and you can hear the little giggles on the other side. So as part of the SAfm TakeOver this morning, I'm going to be joined by my esteemed co-hosts that are going to be running this show, effectively driving. We can't say that they're the pilots on the plane, because that's for Aldrin's show, right? Aldrin is the pilot, you know. So we're going to be driving this bus. Do you want to be a bus? Yeah, I think at least bus. Okay, ship.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
as long as
ship.
we don't sink, guys.
No,
Not the Titanic,
no,
right?
No, sturdy boats.
In studio with me this morning is Matilda Kutama and Onge Tlhape. They're both going to be my co-hosts for the day. I'm going to give them a chance to come on and introduce themselves to you as our listeners, to our SAfm family. Matilda, Onge, good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Cathy.
Morning, Cathy.
Who wants to go first? Who's going to do the introduction first?
Let me let Onke go first
All
because
right.
she is my senior.
Oh,
as you will
wow.
explain. No, it's respect.
Respect. So
yes.
thank you so much. Hi, Cathy. Hello to all the SAfm listeners. My name is Onke Tlape. My full name is Onke Metse, but Onke sounds, a bit more easier. So I usually go by it. It says here that I studied economics journalism and I currently work as a health economist. Speaking about myself sometimes makes me so uncomfortable because I'm like, who is this person? But I am super proud and of myself actually to be here and to be a young person in South Africa. Yes, I am a journalist. I'm a health economist. I'm a philanthropist. I'm an activist. I am, project manager, social media manager. I'm so many things, but at the end of the day, I am a leader. That is one of my biggest and most significant titles, and I hold it with so much pride.
So, Unge, how did you move from being a journalist to being a health economist?
We are going to be discussing education later on. And that's what was driving my life all this time. And education is a topic that's really close to my heart because I believe that when you have a desire or a passion for something, you literally go and study it somehow. So that's literally what I was doing. I love this. I'm in the space. I'm going to study it. Whether it's a certificate, it's an honors degree, it's a master's, it's this, it's that, it's an internship, it's this, it's that, I end up doing it. That's why I have so many titles that sometimes I look at them and I'm reminded of some of them actually.
So you're actually somebody with varied interests.
Yes. I'm a dynamic person, very dynamic.
Listen to that. I'm a dynamic person.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Own it. Matilda,
Hello.
I know you're supposed to be in uniform today. But
Actually,
today's CV is for you,
It
ne?
is. Today is my CV. It's my day off from school. So please forgive me for not being in uniform.
Usually you would be doing what?
Usually right now I would be in class. I am a matriculant student, but I do want to preface that I am doing something called the Cambridge International Curriculum. So I'm currently doing my AS level. So yes, I am a matriculant student by South African standards, but next year I'm going to go on to do my A levels, which is essentially my international matriculation, because as I think I relate to Onke so much when you say you're a dynamic person, but I think from a very young age, I had high aspirations to go study overseas, and I've tried to relentlessly pursue that, and that's been through the Cambridge International Curriculum. So as of right now, I would be writing an exam. I am currently in exam season, but if not exams, then it would be my class time as a matriculant student.
So what drives you, Matilda? And you are what, 18 years old?
Yeah, I am 18 years old. I think what drives me, honestly, and I can put it, is freedom, or the pursuit of freedom. And that could be on a personal level. It's freedom in the sense of freedom for choice, freedom to have opportunities and wanting that. But I think more than that is providing freedom for others. I think I've realized, especially in my space, is that there's a select few of individuals who have this freedom, and then there's the individuals who don't have this freedom. And you can see that the difference here is where they were born, what they were born into, and the access to education that they have. So I think for me, that has kind of really driven my passion for education, because I think education is a pathway to that freedom, whether it's for me, whether it's for others. And it's just been I don't have as much life experience as Onke, but with what I've tried to do and with the time that I've had, it's just been that relentless pursuit of that relentless pursuit of making everyone I possibly can aware of this, of the disparities, of the lost opportunities that we have, but also just trying to empower those who don't have, to know that education is our key. It is our tool to empowerment, and we need to go after it relentlessly. So that is what drives me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, we are in for an exciting 3 hours today. Already, my co-hosts have given you a sense of what you can expect from them. And I tell you what, this show is going to be in very good hands. And I'm sure by the end of the show today, we'll agree that the future of this country is incredibly bright, and that perhaps what we need to do is just to let this generation of young people, I'm not a youth, I can't run. The day I couldn't run for Youth League president, it was, I realized that, okay, I'm not a youth anymore. I'm not a youth anymore. I'm an elder in society.
No.
So I get to call you guys the young people. I'm not the young people anymore, you know. I don't know. Kina money, Cathy. No, not there.
No, let's not go that far yet. No.
Not there yet.
Let's not age you. No.
So you can expect to hear more from Onke and Matilda throughout the rest of the show. We are going to kick it off, as we always do, with the open line. I do think that there's some important matters that we need to put on the national round table, and I'll be taking your calls shortly. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line on 0614 104 107. This morning, of course, I have been absolutely struck by what is unfolding in Poland. As we come on air this morning, the president arriving in Ukraine, being met by a Ukrainian delegation, but his special forces, the special forces members, are still stuck on the tarmac in Warsaw, in Poland. And there's no other way to describe it, but I think we have a diplomatic headache that we're facing today. Of course, we have the head of the presidency security detail, Wally Rhoda. That should be a familiar name to you, given all the other allegations that have been related to the Pala Pala scandal. So it's a name that many South Africans would be familiar with. So Wally Rhoda on the tarmac in Warsaw, making some serious allegations about why he believes that the South African plane has effectively been delayed. Now, what we understand is that the containers with weapons and security equipment, it has not been allowed to go through. And it's due to the validity of permits to transport those weapons. Those permits are under question. While Rhoda says they have the permits, but the Polish want the originals. They have copies. That seems to be the technical issue that is keeping them on the tarmac. Let us also remember the fact that Poland is a country that has very strong ties with the U.S., very strong bilateral ties. The president finished an engagement with the Polish president and moved on to Ukraine with his security detail still stuck on the tarmac. I saw pictures of them as they were coming out of the train that brought them into Ukraine. There's the visuals that it has been posted by the presidency online. You have the president. Behind him is the international relations minister, Naledi Pandor. No security detail in sight. Of course, that's not the only hurdle that this peace mission is facing. We also have the fact that the heads of state that had committed to be part of the mission, at least 4 of them have now sent representatives instead of going themselves. So we have the Zambian president that's there, the Senegalese president that's there, alongside Ramaphosa. Egypt, Uganda, Comoros, and Congo-Brazzaville have all sent representatives instead. All of this in an attempt to have a draft of some kind of peace plan. So it is not a journey that is without hurdles. What do you make of what we are seeing now? By the way, the ANC yesterday confirming that Russia has already put its 4 conditions of negotiations on the table. Top of that list is the fact that US and NATO have to be at the negotiating table. What success can this peace mission possibly have without the US, without NATO?
South Africa, Happy Youth Day on SAfm. With government drawing more young people into the economy, we celebrate Youth Month under this year's theme of accelerating youth economic emancipation for a sustainable future. SAfm, leading the conversation this Youth Day. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, let me go straight to the phone lines then. This is the National Roundtable. What are the issues that you want to put on the agenda? I'd very much also like to hear your views on what we are seeing in as far as this diplomatic mission is concerned. I also wanted to play the clip, by the way, of Wally Ruda and what he said on the tarmac for our listeners. Do we have that clip ready? All right, let's listen to what Wally Ruda had to say. This is in the last couple of hours.
Right, for 4 hours to get in here. She was strip searched. It has never happened that we have strip searched anyone with a diplomatic passport just to get us out of here. Right? Now, they say we don't have permits. We have permits. The only difference is now they say we can't bring a copy of a permit. We must bring the original. Now, some of us have original permits. Right, the embassy here printed permits because they thought it's not necessary to have the originals here. Right, now all of a sudden we must have originals. They are delaying us. Right, they're putting out the life of our president in jeopardy because we could have been in Kiev this afternoon already. Right, and this is what they are doing. And I want you guys to see this. Right? How racist they are. When we started to open the packages, right, they wanted to rush, right, to confiscate our firearms. That's why we had to put it back.
They even lied to say that they negotiated with the crew for 11 hours, which they didn't.
All right, that was the head of the Presidential Security Detail, and that is Major General Wally Ruda there. He's talking about one of the Special Forces members who was strip searched, and he says this was completely uncalled for, completely unnecessary, but it's just part of what they've had to face while in Poland. I'm going to kick it off in Cape Town. Joe, good morning.
Cathy, and good morning to you, Keith.
Yes, Joe.
With you. Cathy, I don't know why our president is going in the first place.
Yeah.
These NATO countries, Poland and obviously the United States, they all think, they control the world. And secondly, I think our president is wasting his time by going there. I mean, there's not going to be a draft resolution. Russia has made it clear. It's not going to give up the Russian control areas, which, by the way, the Ukrainians, as soon as they go into those areas, they kill the Russian-speaking Ukrainians. They kill those who work with the Russian forces. So Russia is not going to give up those territories. So I don't know. Our president is wasting his time. It's clear that the West, they want this war to continue. That's why they're sending Leopard tanks, Abrams tanks, Patriot missiles. I mean, all the best weaponry that the West has, they are sending it to the Ukrainians to fight the Russians. So they are going for the long war, and so is Russia. And obviously the counteroffensive that's happening now is going very bad for the Ukrainians because the Russians have now figured out how to fight this war, and, the Ukrainians are losing German-made tanks and everything on a daily basis. So what I'm essentially saying, our president is wasting his time. I understand our president is trying to calm the West because these threats, by the same NATO countries, even in America, they're calling now to, for example, cancel the AGOA and all these type of things. This is what NATO does and the West does. They threaten people to support their views, to support the invasion of Libya and Iraq. They did the same thing. They threatened countries, to allow, so the countries can allow them to give them their bases and airfields to bomb Iraq and Libya. So what I'm essentially saying is, President Ramaphosa should just come back. Don't waste your time. This war is going to continue for a long time. And, I think, many people in the third world and the non-aligned countries, they are silently supporting Russia because they feel, it's time that NATO also feels the pain that the Libyans and all the countries that they've invaded and people have killed, they just feel, that That's why you have a lot of African countries where they don't send their leaders because they support Russia silently. Obviously, they cannot say it out loud because otherwise the Americans is going to threaten them with sanctions.
So then, Joe, do you believe that the technical problems that that the special forces have experienced in Poland, that those have been deliberate, and that it's not a result of a lack of planning on the part of the South African government?
Yes, I think the targeting South Africa, obviously with South Africa's stance, our president's stance, there's a perception that we're taking Russia's side. But, and there's also a perception that, because our opposition here, is spreading false rumors about we giving weapons to Russia. So obviously the Ukrainian president is very upset about that, and obviously its allies, Poland. But at the end of the day, Cathy, we cannot. The fact of the matter is we're wasting our time, and I don't think we're going to achieve anything there because, America sent too many weapons, Germany, all these NATO countries. They are supplying Ukraine with the best of weapons that money can buy. So I think we're wasting our time going there looking for peace. They can take the effort, but I don't think anything is going to come out of this.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Joe. Thanks for that view, Joe, out in Cape Town. Before I take more of your calls, we're just going to get an update from Ntebo Mokobo, who's our SABC political journalist. He's on this flight. Ntebo, good morning to you. Thanks for making time to join us this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners.
Let's talk about how long you've been on that tarmac now. What has been the situation overnight?
Well, to be precise, I think we've been on the tarmac for the past 20 hours now. We've landed yesterday at around 1:30 here. And if I check the time now, it's just before 12 o'clock. So we've been here for almost 20 hours. And remember, we left South Africa on Wednesday night. It was a long flight. It was 13 hours. It was almost 11 hours. 11 hours, 15 minutes to be precise. But it was a circle around the Italian airspace because we didn't have the permit to fly over their airspace or their territory. So, but ultimately we managed to land here. And after landing, we were told that we can't get out of the flight because there were weapons and ammunition that the special task force is having. The team, the over 100-member team that is accompanying the president on this mission. So they said they can't allow us to disembark with those arms here in Poland. And that on its own has really caused a nightmare for everyone. For the over 100 security members who are with the president, who are supposed to have been in Kiev as we speak, they are here with us as journalists, together with the SAA crew, who have been really providing the hospitality for us from South Africa up until today. It seems they've ran out of food now, but sometime yesterday, indeed, the embassy came to the party there to organize us some food. And that's the situation we're in here in Poland.
Ntebo, what we understand is the fact that the flight you were on deviated from its original mission or from its original path. As journalists on the strip, what were you told? What is the official itinerary that you were given versus what happened?
Well, from South Africa, the brief that we got was that the flight will be flying from Waterkloof to Poland, and from Poland it will be stationed here. There's going to be, and at some point we're told that there's going to be another flight from here in Poland to Rozow. So the South African Airways flight was supposed to have been here, stationed here, until it flies to St. Petersburg, where it will take everyone back home. But that's what we got from South Africa when we left, and that's exactly what is happening even as we speak. The flight is supposed to have stationed here until it leaves to St. Petersburg on Saturday.
And the fact that there are reports that say there was a charter flight that was missed that has created part of the technical difficulties that officials are facing now in Debo?
Yes, there was a chartered flight that was supposed to have left South Africa on Tuesday, but that chartered flight didn't really make it because initially we were told that there were some technical problems. Initially, and then secondly, we were told that it hasn't been cleared to fly into the Polish airspace. But then the security or the organizers of this mission then resorted to SAA, which many people believe that it was much cheaper because SAA is a state-owned enterprise. So even if they pay, it wouldn't be a lot of money that they expected to pay as opposed to the over 20 million rand that was bandied around about this another chartered flight that was supposed to have come here before they resorted to the SAA one.
So from a planning perspective, Ntebo, from what you've been told by the officials there, and again, comparing it with the itinerary that the South African government gave to U.S. journalists, does there seem to be a planning problem here?
Indeed, Cathy. One could claim, the way everything was planned. You will recall that, this mission was supposed to have been undertaken almost 3 weeks, 2 weeks ago, but it didn't happen. It was other things have to happen, others couldn't happen, and ultimately we're told that we should be leaving the country around the 12th. That's why it left on Wednesday. Planning has been a problem, but you would understand that it was supposed to have had all these hiccups because it involves a serious mission where you have a president, not just one president, but 7 presidents. And those presidents have to be secured. And you recall that, it will be really a mammoth task when you have to secure a security to ensure security of 7 presidents who will at some point be driven to the border for almost 100 kilometers, and after 100 kilometers they hop into a train, and that train would have to travel for almost 15 hours. So that on its own was expected that at some point we'll have a problem. But ultimately, indeed, it happened. We are here now, but the only problem is the treatment that I think the South African delegation is getting from the Polish authorities. That on its own, I think it's one matter that has to be discussed by the counterparts from both countries.
What is that treatment, Ntebo?
We were told at some point that we have visas, yes, but we can't be, despite the fact that we have visas. What they can do, one would expect that they would say, well, leave the weapons in the flight, but those who've got visas, we've got the right. Remember, we've paid for these visas. We've got the right to be in this country. We are legal in this country. We can't force ourselves in this country. They should have allowed those who are legally here to go into their nearest hotels, to do whatever they want to do, and maybe come back. But then allow, or maybe then retain the flight with the arms. But they didn't do that. They came here, they surrounded the aircraft, police were here. There were a lot of negotiations between our embassy officials together with the police here, but really nothing happened. And even this morning, we were told that at some point around 11 o'clock, around 12 o'clock midnight, we will be allowed out of the flight, but that didn't happen. And no one really seems to care about the well-being of everyone who's here, who's legally here. The president even met with their president. They had a 10-minute courtesy call, but that on its own means nothing to them. And that's why at some point some people are saying that on its own borders on geopolitics, because this is South Africa that is wanting to broker a peace that some people really don't have the nerve to. That on its own, I think it's a problem.
So, Ntebo, from what you understand, that meeting between the South African president and the Polish president lasted 10 minutes?
Yes, the meeting was not long. We thought it was around 10-minute meeting, and it was just a courtesy call for the president to say, we are here as the African peace mission to Ukraine and Russia. It will be remiss really of the president to come to a country and just pass without meeting his counterpart in that country. So it was courtesy of him to really meet President Andrzej Duda.
A courtesy, 10 minutes though, is just enough to say hello and goodbye. And yet, one would think that there would be a lot more, perhaps, to discuss, including Poland's own view of how peace can be arrived at in this situation.
Yes, you will recall again, Cathy, that everything was dependent on the next available train to Kiev. You will recall there are few trains to Kiev, and the president again was racing against time because there was the next train has to leave, and if that train has to leave, it will take 15 hours to reach Kiev, and from there they will have to sleep over, and this morning then they will have a meeting. So they didn't want to really take long. That's why the courtesy call was just a short interaction between the two presidents, or a short session between the two.
Where is the security detail of the other African presidents, Ndebo? Have they experienced the same difficulties?
Well, what we're told is that all presidents have arrived except 3, that is from Uganda, I think Egypt and Zambia. We're told that those presidents didn't come. They opted to have their low-ranking officials to represent them in this mission. But what we know is that other presidents are there. That's why I was saying that at some point some people are even blaming the fact that there's geopolitics that is playing itself out, because some countries have been allowed. There hasn't been any sort of glitches or hiccups into Poland up until they go to Ukraine. But for South Africa, we see a different treatment, because some presidents just came here and they had left, and all of them made sure that their presidents are secured. It's only us where we have a problem, where the over 100 security member team that should be accompanying the president to Kiev is not allowed. And we are being told, some people have been even saying that the president went to Kiev with a very lean security that on its own compromises his safety, together with the delegation that he's with.
All right, Ndebo, let's talk then finally about what everybody on this plane is doing now. What was the last update that you were given?
Well, for now, our passports have been taken, and we're told that at some point they will have to get someone from the embassy to come and facilitate the stamping of those passports. But the question is, so what will happen then beyond that? Because there hasn't been any communication from the Polish authorities in terms of whether we will be allowed into the country. There hasn't been anything that has been said by anyone, even officials from the South African embassy here. They haven't really come. The only thing that we can take solace in is that at some point they managed to bring us food last night. But for now, we haven't had anything. We tried to ask why our passports are taken. We're told that they have to facilitate the stamping. And what will the stamping of those passports then mean? Because we were told that at some point they organized a hotel for us last night. Arrived here around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're told that we are to descend back to go to those hotels, but nothing really happened. So for now, we really in the hands of the Polish authorities, and said that we are treated as mercenaries. You see, everything reminded me of one Simon Man when he went to Equatorial Guinea when they were arrested somewhere in Zimbabwe. There were a group of people with arms in their flight, and they got arrested. But those were mercenaries. So that's how we are treated. We are treated like mercenaries in the Polish soil.
All right, Ntebo, until then, it looks like you're going to have to get used to that Burger King, I understand it was, that they managed to get to everybody on the flight last night.
Indeed.
All right, Ntebo Mokobo, out in Warsaw, stuck on the tarmac, hashtag stuck in the plane. We continue taking your calls on the talking point. Palacious, you're calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Hello, Cathy. Hello to Onke and Matilda.
Yeah.
I actually know Onke very personally. Yes. So I just want to comment on this issue of the SA media, the protection service for the president being stuck there by Poland. What does this actually mean in terms of geopolitics? Is this like a snap on the side of the South African government from the Polish authorities? And also, if it is, what are the punitive measures that we're going to take as a country? Are we going to get, again, Dr. Naledi Pandor to summon the ambassador to Poland when she gets here? What's going to happen? What's the punitive measures? What are we going to do? And also, Poland being an ally of the United States, I think it would have been more effective for them to snap us when we go to Russia instead of going to Kyiv, because I don't know. I don't think they get what they wanted if it's really a snap against the SA government.
Yeah, look, Palacious, I think right now it might be too soon to start thinking about what is our response. If we're still stuck on the tarmac, we just have to get the basics right. We just have to figure out how to move this 120 people that have been grounded effectively.
Yeah, but that's the thing also, Cathy. We don't know how to move. We are actually stuck. We don't know. It's like our movement is in another country's hands. We can't move. We don't know. Do we move sideways? Do we move forward? What do we do? I saw some videos edited this morning of the journalists there by Poland, Amanda Kos of the Sunday Times, and someone from 405. They were taking videos, like reporting from there.
Yeah, Govan Whittles. Yeah.
They were just outside the plane. You could see. I don't know if I was the only one who could see. They look so scared, man. They were not comfortable as we know them to be. They look scared as if anything could happen at any time, and it was very sad to see. Also considering that these people are the media, they're accountable to the public in terms of reporting what's going on there in whatever the president does when he goes to Kyiv. It's not only the protection services that are stuck there, but also the media. What do we do about them?
Yeah, look, I can't imagine what it is. Listening to Ntebo Mokobo describe it, he said at one point their plane was completely surrounded by Polish police and security personnel. You can imagine how stressful this entire experience has been for everybody on board. Yeah, Palacious, looking forward to hearing more from you in the next 3 hours. Of course, from 10 o'clock, I'm going to step aside, and Onge and Matilda are going to do their thing until 12 o'clock. You know, I'm just going to be here to supervise. All right, Palacious, thanks for the call. Let me go to Majoro in Ladybrand. Majoro, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm good. I'm not sure whether we understand the scenario the country's at now.
Oh, it is incredulous, Majoro. It is indescribable where we find ourselves right now.
Our president is being held hostage. If you hold the security of the president in another country, not allowing it to proceed to another country, it's like holding the president hostage as we speak. In other words, the Polish government has kidnapped our president, so to speak. But the unfortunate part is what I'm going to talk about, Cathy. In South Africa, we are going to take this as normal as it is. To my understanding, the whole SABC radio station should be covering this as much as we are covering it now. We are fortunate, those who listen to SAfm, to get a 20-minute interview that you did with Ntebo. But if you listen to other languages, our vernacular languages, it will be 2 seconds and an advert will come in. And now people will not get the gist of what is happening now in the country. The president is being held hostage in another country. The life of president is at threat. Everything must stop now. Even the rally at Bloemfontein must stop. The media coverage must cover this. The 24 hours. Now the president's life is at risk now. But if you open another radio station, it will all be advert, everything. It's life is normal.
Look, Majoro, I don't know if it's. I don't think it's accurate to say that the president is being held hostage. If you go onto the social media pages of the presidency, you'll see the president arriving with the rest of the delegation that's there in Ukraine. Yes, he. If you look at him, he does look a bit stressed. Maybe I'm reading too much into what I'm seeing.
You are right.
But he looks a bit shaken, and it's, of course he's got minimal security. There is this counter-offensive in Ukraine. In fact, that's part of why the Egyptian president pulled out of the mission, because he felt that it was simply too unsafe for them to continue with it. But the four that sort of continued with it felt there was no going back, whereas the others felt that the security situation in Ukraine was perhaps a bit too difficult, that this was maybe not the right time to still be proceeding.
That I understand, Cathy. But here's the situation. Imagine if the American president, security personnel, was being held hostage in another country, not being allowed to proceed. What would have happened now in the world? What would have happened?
Majoro, if what I have seen of visits of U.S. presidents, including in this country, some of the officials would have been at the venues that the president was going to be at the day before. I remember when U.S. President Barack Obama was in South Africa, and you had snipers on top of the buildings in Soweto from literally, the day before.
Here. In fact, you had United States here in South Africa. They occupied the country.
Yes, absolutely. Not occupy the country, but I think they do have a very strong presence, especially in the space where they know their president is going to be. So now, you ask what would the American president have done? I don't think the American president would have continued with his trip if this was in fact the case.
No. There's a difference. You must understand the politics of the world now. You now have a bipolar politics, unlike in the past. The BRICS issue is one of the issues that the Western are not happy with it. We are a BRICS member. We cannot pull out of this nation as a BRICS member. That will definitely be seen as one of the... We'll lose our sovereignty as a country if we have pulled out of this. And that will slightly be put us at the weakest point as a BRICS member.
Our mission, and we don't already appear weak, Majoro? I mean, this is embarrassing, incredibly embarrassing. Regardless of what the reasons behind it may be, whether it's sinister motives on the part of the Polish, whether it's lack of planning on the part of South African government. The point is where we find ourselves is an incredibly fragile position.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Now you're putting it with the sensitivity on the matter. My question is, it's only us who are listening to SAfm who are privileged to understand what is happening outside this country. Let's phone your sister radio stations, your Lesedi, your Mukwewe, all the other radio stations.
All right, Majoro. Yes, I think the point is made, Majoro. But of course, they also have news updates and news bulletins through which listeners get updates. We're going to take a quick break. Lots of your WhatsApp voice notes also coming in. I also want to hear from Matilda and Onke what they think about all of this.
SABC1 has made a few changes to the primetime schedule. On Fridays, Deal or No Deal South Africa at 7:30 p.m. Tune into Ikaslam at 9 p.m. Kung Fu Movies at 9:30 p.m. Tune into SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
The time has come to buy a car. You're shopping, browsing near and far. You're looking for a new ride, but the right one hasn't come. You Saw some on the internet, but found we buy cars instead. Cars, buckies, bikes and more. We buy cars, has got them all. We have what you desire. Just come to us, we are the ones to trust. We have what you desire. Come to We Buy Cars, we're the best by far. WeBuyCars.co.za, the best way to buy a car by far.
Let the bell ring.
Meropa Casino will experience an avalanche of punches from 9 bouts during the Power to Youth International Boxing Night. Ayanda Nkosi will cross-question the champion Kaya Busagwe in the SA lightweight title. Meanwhile, Johnson Mutsanani challenges the champ Rofio Mapupa in the Limpopo flyweight title. The Queens of the Ring, SA's Nozi Dube and Adidia Mimu of Malawi, will battle it out in the female junior featherweight division to demonstrate that this is not a ladies' night out. Catch the Limpopo champions, Power to Youth International Boxing Night on Friday 23 June at 7 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Open fee 124. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Then on SABC 2 at 10:30 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm Youth Day Takeover.
All right, I did promise that today, of course, is the Youth Day Takeover. We're just doing the open line this way because of this very serious story that is unfolding internationally. I am going to hand over the mic come 10 o'clock. You will hardly hear me. I'm going to be here just as a participant. Before we continue, though, I want to go to Mdu in Mbombela. Mdu, good morning.
This is Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm also well. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to make my deliberation. You see, Cathy, Ron Paul, he said, truth is treason in the empire of lies. You see, the North Atlantic Alliance, which Poland is part of, as well as the government in Kiev and other European nations, which are being controlled by the United States of America. Those people represent the empire of lies and deceit. They do not know anything about negotiation. They don't believe in negotiation. They believe in force. You do what I tell you, or else I kill you. You understand? President Cyril Ramaphosa, Queen. Where was he going there? Negotiating with people who always lie, who are full of deceit, who are funding Nazis to kill innocent people. President Putin tried to negotiate with the government of Kiev since 2014. Stop killing innocent children. Stop killing women. Stop killing people who want their self-determination, who don't want to be ruled and controlled by USA. And they continue to bomb them. That's why Russia invaded Ukraine, to stop the genocide that was being perpetuated by the Nazi Kiev regime. Right? So now Ramaphosa is running there to negotiate with people who don't believe in negotiation. He must just come back to the country.
Is it fair to say they don't believe in negotiation, when Ukraine has welcomed and been open to these efforts?
Let me tell you this, Cathy. If there's negotiations that needs to be done, President Ramaphosa must sit with Russia and the United States of America, because in Ukraine there's no government anymore. That government is controlled by the United States of America. They are the ones that are funding the Nazi regime.
Well, interesting that you say that, because Russia itself has been clear that any peace talks, number one on the negotiating table, has to include the US and NATO. And President Ramaphosa was well aware of this, undertaking this trip.
He should not have gone to, let me tell you, President Ramaphosa should not have gone to Kiev. Those people are terrorists. You understand me? They don't believe in negotiation. Right now they are embarrassing us.
But what about the fact that Russia has violated the UN Charter by invading Ukraine?
Let me tell you, Sis Cathy, Russia has not violated any UN charter.
No, they have violated the UN charter.
No,
Mdu.
no. Okay, can you please give me your ear? I will explain to you. Give me your ear so that I can explain to you. When they ousted Lukashenko, I think it was Lukashenko, I'm not sure about the name, but the democratically elected president of Ukraine in 2014, the United States organized a military coup there in Ukraine. And then those people of Donbass, Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, and that region, they said we cannot be ruled by United States of America. We have to have our own sovereignty. We want self-determination. They started to bomb those people. For many years, they started to bomb them. And then Putin was saying, no, let's go to the negotiation table. Let's sit down and talk about it and how to resolve this issue. They didn't want to do that. And then in 2022, Putin called on all the soldiers of Ukraine and said, we are brothers and sisters. We've intermarried for many years. We are Slavs. Lay down your weapons. You understand? Lay down your weapons and let's have it.
But so what you're positing here is an argument that says that Russia was justified. Its invasion of Ukraine. This is the view that is held by those who believe that Russia was justified.
Listen.
It doesn't take away from the fact that they have violated the UN Charter, Mdu. That is a reality. It is a fact. There's no running away from it.
They have not violated it.
In the same breath, South Africa, at least by the ANC's position, is that they are now expecting that at the end of these peace talks, the peace plan that's drafted is going to be taken back to the UN, that the ANC believes is the mediator of this conflict. So how does it work? Because you can't, on the one hand, not uphold sort of the UN Charter, but then expect the UN to be the same body that is going to come back and mediate the conflict.
Okay, Sis Cathy, I hear you. You're saying Russia has violated the UN Charter, ne? United States of America, how many times have they violated the UN Charter? They've gone to Iraq. They killed millions of people there.
Yes, and everybody knows, and that is and that is part of the problem. That is part of the problem.
No international criminal court.
Because if we're being honest about what happened with the invasion of Iraq, South Africa condemned it unequivocally, and history proved that the stance that South Africa took on the Iraq invasion was the right position. And that's precisely part of why we end up here. But Mdu, we're going to have to leave it there for this morning. We're leaving it there with the open line. On the other side of 10 o'clock, it's not my voice. You're going to be hearing from Unge, Matilda. They're our hosts for The Talking Point as part of the Youth Takeover on SAfm.
Independent and impartial. This is SAfm News.
Thank you, Cathy. In your top stories, a Mpumalanga man held over the death of his 4 family members and set back to the bid to get justice for the Cray Dog 4. This is SAfm News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. A 32-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly fatally shooting his 4 family members and injuring another in Mkhondo in Mpumalanga. Police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says the victims are aged between 3 and 71. He says the suspect was arrested and will be charged with 4 counts of murder and attempted murder. Mdluli says the suspect will appear at the Piet Retief Magistrates Court on Monday.
Amongst the victims is a 71-year-old grandmother, 3 children aged 3, 8 and 10. Meanwhile, a 22-year-old woman was fortunate to be alive, though she's fighting for her life after being allegedly shot by the same suspect.
The NPA says the death of former security branch police officer Barent du Plessis is a setback to the quest to ensure justice for the families of the Cradock 4. Du Plessis was a key suspect in the case, as several other suspects have died during the investigation. Eastern Cape NPA spokesperson Dokolo Kyali says the investigating team struggled to find relevant and admissible evidence to proceed with the prosecution for the murder of Matthew Goniwe, Fort Kalata, Sparrow Mkondo and Sicelo Mhlauli in 1985 by the security police. Kyali says the NPA had numerous meetings with the families of the deceased during their investigations about the progress of the probe.
Director of Public Prosecutions in the Eastern Cape has made a decision on the matter. However, that decision will have to be first communicated with the families before being made public. It is unfortunate that we could not proceed to prosecute anyone at this stage, but due to the unique difficulties in the investigation of this matter, it became impossible to proceed with same. It is our commitment to ensure that the truth and reconciliation matters are brought to finality so that justice is seen to be done.
Security around the Dr. Rantlai Petros Malimela Stadium in Bloemfontein has been tightened ahead of the National Youth Day commemoration. Traffic officers and police are controlling access into the stadium precinct. Deputy President Paul Mashatile is expected to address young people attending the event this afternoon. Mashatile is expected to give the address at midday. Mangaung Metro spokesperson Kondile Ketama says they've placed traffic and security officials at strategic points.
Would like to let all those who are coming inside the city that at the entrances of the city they will be welcomed by a serious visibility of traffic officers and SAPS, but obviously there must just be a cooperation. We have taken the measure just to regulate traffic, but the traffic flow leading to the stadium is also regulated. We are requesting a cooperation of drivers.
The University of the Free State's groundbreaking research into processes for cleaning water may provide rural homes with the ability to purify their own water. According to the university's Center for Environmental Management using indigenous algae, rural homes may have their own low-cost wastewater treatment infrastructure. In the wake of the cholera outbreak, the university says this could be the solution to improving the quality of water. The university is collaborating with the CSIR. The center's director is Professor Paul Obeholster.
Is we optimize the specific algae that occurs into these plant systems to treat the domestic wastewater by using a consortium-specific algae that is super absorbers of nutrients in the system itself. Now these algae use the nutrients and then increase the pH of the water itself and their alkalinity up to 11. And by doing that, they reduce the E. coli in the water. It don't directly kill cholera, but it removes the nutrients, prevent cholera from flourishing in these water bodies.
A group of local journalists accompanying President Cyril Ramaphosa on his peace mission to Russia and Ukraine are still stranded in the SAA flight at the Warsaw Chopin Airport in Poland. They are with the security team meant to secure the president's safe passage to the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. The Polish authority restricted them to the airport, saying they don't have the permit to have their weapons in the country. President Ramaphosa is part of the African team visiting Russia and Ukraine to broker peace and facilitate the end to the conflict. Meanwhile, Ramaphosa is expected to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky later this morning and meet his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin tomorrow. And finally, Western Cape Premier Alan Windey says geopolitical concerns are getting in the way of South Africa remaining a beneficiary of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. He spoke to SABC News on the sidelines of an investment networking event in New York after engagements with the U.S. lawmakers in Washington earlier this week.
There's some geopolitical stuff in South Africa that's really getting in the way, and there's a negative narrative at the moment, and we've got to change that, and we've also got to show that, and for me, representing a lot of the agricultural trade that takes place between South Africa and the US comes out of our province, and I've got to make sure that we are going to be able to continue that kind of trade.
Recapping your top story, a 32-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly fatally shooting his 4 family members and injuring another in Mkhondo, Mpumalanga. Police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says the victims are aged between 3 and 71 years old. For SAfm News, I am Luyanda Maume. More news at 11.
Youth Month on SAfm. With government drawing more young people into the economy, we celebrate Youth Month under this year's theme of accelerating youth economic emancipation for a sustainable future. SAfm, leading the conversation this Youth Month. The Talking Point on SAfm. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. SAfm Youth Day Takeover.
In my view, I think the South African government should actually, when they come back, they should actually dismiss the Polish embassy out of our country. Really. This is the law.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy, I think what is happening with South African delegation in Poland is a retaliation by the Polish government for what has happened to their citizen here in South Africa who killed Chris Hani, Walush. Thank you.
Good morning, Cathy. I hope you're great, man. Good to hear you. Look at the issue of what's happening, the hurdles that are faced by the president and the Ukraine and Russia. This shows that Ukraine disregards Africa. So there was no need for us to even interfere or try to do anything. Let them fight or find their own solution. We should be seeking our own African solution within our own African conflict. There's a conflict in Sudan. That's where, as Africans, we should be. Instead of going to Ukraine, Russia. I mean, look, it's clear that US, Germany, and any other NATO countries actually don't want peace for whatever reason. So they want to make South Africa feel bad, and they want to alienate anyone that they deem to be in line with Russia, to be allies of Russia. Thank you.
Cathy, a long time ago, I always said the Lady R would come back and bite South Africa, and boy, it's biting us in spades. The bottom line is the Ukraine and Poland are simply saying to South Africa, we don't know what was on that ship, the Lady R. We understand, we assume it was weapons and arms, which you're sending here to kill our very own people. You're here on a so-called peace mission, which all Russia has to do is pull out of a country they've invaded, and then there'll be peace. And the second thing is, if we don't know what was on the Lady R, how do we know what's on this presidential aircraft? They don't trust us, and I don't blame them, Mike Newlands.
Morning, Patriots. This is Ngasin Vaba. I think we should now start treating other countries the way they treat us. Poland has a very close relationship with America. And now I think this is a sabotage. Our president is without security. I don't know what is happening. And really, I think this was planned so that whatever that we're going there for doesn't get achieved. So it's fine. Well, let's just be thankful that our president is still safe. And then I think going forward, we should just treat everybody the way they treat us. And I'm with Moscow or Russia. I think it is now the time for South Africans also to take side. Thank you very much. This is Tofi Baba.
#SAfm Talking Point.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. That is, you're listening to SAfM, and we are continuing to lead the conversation. This is not Cathy's voice. You're listening to Ongetlape, and we are taking over SAfM today as the young people. And those were some of the voice notes from the conversation we had earlier on about the African leaders' peace mission in the Russia and Ukraine war. And my opinion, of course, is that it's time for Africa to have a voice at the UN and other international organizations. But I agree with one of the voice notes that actually said that, they're not taking us seriously and we need to focus on ourselves. But our voice is also important. Our voice is important, yes, as the youth. And I am in studio with
Matilda. I'm glad to be here, and you are right. I think in South Africa, more importantly, with such a big youth population, the youth is going to be the driving force of our future, and it's going to be the driving force of what's to come. And I think it's very interesting that you touched on the Russia-Ukraine situation and our South African delegates there. As I've been listening to the show and listening to the viewers, it's been a very interesting situation that's unfolding, and quite frankly, an unfortunate one. I think we're faced with a situation where it seems like there's intimidation playing in here. I think South Africa has put itself in a position to go out and try achieve a form of peace, but they're being met with intimidation tactics, and they're being put in a position of negotiation while you're vulnerable, which I don't think that's a way to negotiate. I think South Africa and our president is currently in a vulnerable position, and a viewer just said right now that he wishes that America would extend this behavior, or even Poland will extend this behavior to other presidents, but there's a clear targeting with the fact that other security details have been let to go through, but our one particularly, obviously because of the Lady R investigation that is currently going on, have been put under such scrutiny and under just such targeting. So it is an unfortunate situation, and from where I'm sitting, I sincerely hope that our president keeps strong and that he keeps safe. But yeah.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Matilda, for your views on that. Auntie Cathy, are you still okay that side? Okay, she's still observing.
But I told you guys,
don't bring her in.
To provide oversight. I'm just here to provide oversight.
We're doing a check-in.
This hour is your hour, because part of the reason why you were chosen as the co-host is because there were very specific issues you wanted to talk about on the national airwaves, right? And I understand that education is going to be the big focus for this hour. So I know you've prepared your notes. You're going to tell us exactly what it is about education that you wanted to talk about. And, by the end of this hour, I'm sure we'll all be ready to stand in protest with you about all of the things that you are going to be bringing us into, and your experiences as young people on this topic that affects them.
Yes, certainly. So we are looking forward to engaging with the young people of South Africa. Of course, you can call into our studio line 086 000 2032, SMS line 41391. SMS is charged at R1.50, and our WhatsApp line is 061 4104-107. You can also engage with us on Twitter at SAfm Radio, and then of course stream online www.safm.co.za. So now Matilda is going to intro us to the topic.
I think I'm very, very glad that we're here, and I'm very glad that we're discussing such an important topic as Cathy introduced, which is education.
Yes.
I think you and I, even when we were speaking previously, is that education is such a topic that is so forefront in our lives, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. But to begin and to lead us into this conversation, I would love to play a clip by Dr. Cathy Mohlahlana.
It is difficult to imagine, to gauge the depth of feeling. You've got to be black and to live among these kids to realize just how much they hate the imposition of this system called Bantu education. Many of them can quote the words used by Dr. Verwoerd in that fateful debate when he said that there is no reason to educate the black child to the same extent as the white. There is no need to teach a Bantu child mathematics or anything like that when he will never need to use that science of mathematics in his situation. Actually, Verwoerd said that all you need to teach the black child is the ability to understand the white master. Bantu education prepares the black child for a subsequent role in society.
Because the children have this negative attitude towards Africans. The Afrikaans teacher in the classroom is going to try and force these kids to study Afrikaans. So at all times, Afrikaans is associated with force and very, very harsh people.
Kom nie. Dat beteken verstaan.
Remember the agony years. Will they ever pass? Tears and blood like rain, but we are still bleeding.
SAfm Youth Day Takeover.
Have just heard a clip from Dr. Mohlahlana describing the reasons and the causes for the march in 1976, which being the Afrikaans in Bantu education and Bantu education as a whole. And, you know, education was a big forefront issue in that march, but I think it is still prevalent today to discuss, which we'll come back to discussing after an ad break.
Not sure if it's just flu, COVID, or something else? Good news, you can still get your COVID jab or booster this winter for added protection. And while you're at it, get your flu jab and health check too. Remember, COVID is still with us. Call the National Health Hotline on 0800 029 999. That's 0800 029 999 or WhatsApp help to 0600 123 456.
South Africa. Your all-time favorite is back with yet another season. DJ Shelley continues to dish out the music clues, while Emo Adams spurs the contestants on. It's all about music, fun, and a whole lot of laughter on Noot for Noot, Wednesdays in our 7 p.m. entertainment slot, only on SABC2.
Hashtag SAfm Talking Point.
We are now beginning the very anticipated conversation on education. I think going back from June 16 in 1976, there are certain issues that are still prevalent there, that were prevalent there, that are prevalent now. That being the relevance of the curriculum and how it shapes young black students for what was going on. Obviously, at the time, it was Bantu education that they were dealing with, which was essentially a watered-down version of education. It was not empowering black students the way other white students and students in South Africa were getting empowered. And I think that is still prevalent today in the sense that there's certain flaws within the educational system that don't empower youth for the current skills that we need in South Africa. That's probably leading to why we have such a high unemployment rate, is that we are not adequately equipped for the job market. We're not adequately equipped for the skills our country needs for economic empowerment. So I'm going to ask you, Onke, as someone who has passed through matric, as someone who's passed through university, do you feel that the education system, particularly the government education system, empowered you for the skills you needed for university and even for the workplace?
I'm going to start with something that's really, really close to my heart. And it was unfortunate for people like me. I grew up in the village in Mafikeng, so I neke papa. Let me just put it that way, neke papa, and I was always willing to learn and always being at the forefront and out there. But then again, that was not the same for everyone. The one thing that is missing from the educational system, in my opinion, is the soft skills. Soft skills is hopapa. Hopapa is ukupapa. It's confidence. Literally, the confidence to have the networking skills, the confidence to put yourself out there, the confidence to say, hey, SAfm is looking for young people to come and present. Send that voice note and then come and make your voice to be heard on the radio. So those soft skills, networking, emotional intelligence, you get to the workplace and you see that, other kids who were fortunate enough to have private education where they are taught these skills are way ahead of you. Even though your GPS marks were like 80%, you got 100% for mathematics at matric, you got this, you got that. I got my degree in record time. I was sitting at interviews, but I couldn't express myself the way that I wanted to. And then I went back and said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to teach myself how to do this thing. Then come a typical Friday, it's in the afternoon, you're doing your internships, the CEOs are there, the company officials are there, and, it's social hour, it's drinks hour, and you have to interact with the people in the workplace. And Matilda, I am telling you, you could differentiate between the private school kids and the public school kids. Even though you do have the brains, but standing there and having the confidence to walk up to the CEO and say, hi, my name is Ongetlape and I am an intern. It takes a lot for someone who has been like marginalized from the childhood, and they're carrying that generational curse. And the reason why we are celebrating this holiday today. And yeah, that's why I said it's a topic that's really close to my heart, because I could see it and I could experience it, and it's really heartbreaking, and it's something that we need to address and not just say, get your degree. Get your education is really important, but what comes on top of education is add-on skills that are really necessary for the future.
Sure. Onke, I think you really bring up a really, really heavy issue.
Yeah.
And I think in looking at it, because I like to consider myself as someone who is able to see both sides of the spectrum. So I, yes, do go to a private school, but I go on scholarship. So it could have been a completely different turnout for me. And being on scholarship it makes me see two different sides of I don't want to call it an argument, but I want to call it two different sides of the coin, in the sense that there are people in my life who are in these public schools who are going through the system, and there are people in my life who are in these private schools who, are getting an array of opportunities that when you compare, you can see how much disparity there is between these public and private schools. And I love that you brought that up, because that is a personal passion of mine. And I think when you're talking about soft skills, the first immediate thing that I can identify that is probably the cause of this lack in soft skills is that in private education, they have a good extracurricular program. They encourage their learners to do public speaking. There's sporting activities. Yeah. There's so much additionals that really ensure that a well-rounded child is produced by the educational system. Whereas when we see in the public system, it's more you learn what you need to learn and you go home. You learn, you get your degree and you go. And you are isolating a really important issue, that what ends up happening is that there are these individuals who you can tell have been raised in polarizing systems. You can tell where one has developed the skills for public speaking, where one has had these debate coaches, had these public speaking coaches, whereas one, they didn't even play netball at school. I know there are certain schools that they end school at 2:30 and they simply go home. And where is the skills in that? Where is the honing and the training of young students for what we need in the future? But I think this also opens up to an even more interesting conversation, and a bigger one, is the lack of facilities, I would even say. Because, I think why these private institutions have so much opportunities is because they have the facilities to host this, If you have these big auditoriums, if you have these, grand things, it's easy for you to host this. But I don't think public institutions have these facilities to be able to host these, like netball courts and tennis courts that are kept up to date. As you said, you've come from a school school in Mafikeng. What would you say is your analysis of the facilities, but ground to ground?
Ground to ground, I was fortunate enough to grow up in the village but go to school in the burbs. So it was always a thing of I do so much at school and then I get home and not much is being done that side. So, but you could tell by the schools that I pass by at home from school that there's a difference between the haves and the have-nots. You know, something is happening this side, something is happening that side, but we end up at the same university and we are expected to be competing for the same jobs in the market. And then we talk about the unemployment issue in the country. And it's so interesting that I want to start, you know, engaging with other people as well. You know, we're going to take a few callers now. We have Sydney from Akenshoek. Sydney, hello.
Oh, sisters, you are truly welcome in that studio. It's true. My name is, it's true. My name is Sydney.
Thank
Deliver in Akonshoek, Bushbuck.
Akonshoek, yes.
Tell Sis Cathy that she's one star in the galaxy of SAfm stars. You must tell her that. She's one of the stars. She's in the galaxy of stars of SAfm. Yeah, sisters.
Yes.
In your endeavor to find a space in this life, and the most challenging in the modern time, the 21st century. But there is one thing that is ever troubling me, and blow the horn loud, hail strong. Any platform you find yourself on, communicate, social media, wherever. Start today and forever, like the youth of 1976. Make it your strongest challenge, your main challenge. Discourage tavern life, drunkardness. That's what I see. It is consuming young people today, left and right. It is taking whatever, it's just scorching their life all out. Tavern life. Here in Akonshoek, where I live, I can count in a radius or in a space of 5 kilometers, I can count very strong existing taverns, 5. And I even wonder who gave permit to those taverns to exist in these closed spaces. When you come in the evening time, you will wonder. You'll be shocked. Overly crowded. All drunkenness, tavern life is destroying you today. I can tell you that. So, sisters, go all out. Say no to liquor. Say no to drunkenness. Say no to tavern life. Tavern life is killing you today. I can tell you that.
Definitely. And they're selling to young kids. You know, I've had an experience where one tavern owner said it so proudly to say that, you know, the youth, young people, bana baskolo, they are my biggest market. Yes. They have the money.
Who is giving the permit? I think it should also go there. How can you, who is giving this authority? Who is authorizing these things that let's have like it is now? It was not back then in the youth. You'd hardly see young people. We were consumed in wanting to see who will be in our future. But today, tavern. Please condemn these sisters. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And, you know, the caller, thank you so much, Sydney. Thank you for your engagement. He just reminded me of the Enyobeni Tavern tragedy in the Eastern Cape, which is turning 1 year old, actually, and we are not sure where the investigations are at the moment. These things happen in the country and they are not addressed. It's just another story. It's getting all the attention and then 1 minute it's gone. But it's not just the Eastern Cape. It's other parts of the country as well. And Matilda, what do you think?
I think you brought up a very topic that we need to focus on is the youth vulnerability and the fact that these tavern owners, and not only tavern owners, but these people who are selling illicit substances to young children are targeting the youth. They see that the youth has this potential, but they see that the youth isn't well enforced, that we aren't well supported. If the youth was well supported, had good education on these things, had good education of where this leads to. I mean, the caller just told us about drunkenness. It leads to alcoholism, leads to substance abuse. If there needs to be proper support and proper education on these things so that the youth isn't as vulnerable.
Yes.
Now leading to our next caller, Sfiso in Kutama Correctional Center. Hello, Sfiso.
A very good morning to you, Onke, and your co-guest there, or co-presenter. How are you guys?
We are good, thanks. How are you, Sfiso?
I'm very much splendid myself. This is Sfiso Kumalo from White City, Jabov, but currently an inhabitant living behind bars at the aforementioned prison. So basically, I just wanted to say you guys, you are doing a very much phenomenal job. If it were up to me, I would have given you that job instantly.
I
tell them, tell them to give it to us.
Most certainly. So my point here is a youth of today, when you compare them to the youth of 1976, these are two people, or these are two groups of individuals which are very much different, comparable. Obviously, the challenges that are faced by the youth today is unemployment, and you can then understand that the crime is also plaguing our country. So my 2 cents on this, I want to inform all the youth today that they must take their education very seriously, even if it means that going extra length, and they should do so. And the other thing is that bothers me a lot is the fact that these young people today, I am a young person myself, they bring in unauthorized objects into the schools and into other institutions of learning. So basically my stern warning is that they should be very much considerate of the fact that they might be ruining their potential future careers, to get my point. So they shouldn't be bringing all these unauthorized objects, because at the end of the day, they will find themselves in this deplorable condition to which one is subjected to. So that is my 2 cents to this. They should just focus solely on empowering themselves, given the fact that the unemployment is very much high, but they should make sure that they go to school to empower themselves to open their own businesses rather than depending on employment, to get my point.
No, I do get your point, Fiso, and I think it is a very beautiful and relevant point, especially when you speak about the importance of focusing on education and that being the focus of the youth.
It's very much imperative. They shouldn't be discouraged by the fact that we don't have jobs. They should create their own jobs. So thank you very much. Keep on this wonderful job that you are doing.
Thank you so much,
and
Fiso.
SAfm, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. But, Sfiso, really, the idea of the youth of today having different issues from the youth of yesterday. And what I mean by that is the youth of today, we are no longer having to struggle through racial barriers and are no longer having to struggle through those barriers of apartheid being the one, the ceiling that we can't get through. But there is a ceiling nonetheless. As Fiso spoke, and quite beautifully so, that we should not let the lack of job come in the way of us empowering ourselves with education. There's a beautiful quote by Nelson Mandela when he said, education is the key that allows the children of farm workers to be the president of a great nation. It's that through education, we equalize ourselves, that children of all barriers, regardless of where it can now reach this opportunity. And yes, there might not be this job availability in South Africa, and that is a topic on its own of how we can better empower our economy and how we can better create these. But there are other ways that the youth can empower themselves through, as Fiso mentioned, is entrepreneurship and learning these skills and going to get an education for yourself to add to the economy, to create that economic boom that we need. And I think if we can focus on education, but also get the correct resources that we need, then we are setting ourselves up for a powerful, powerful future.
Indeed, Matilda. And next, we have JC Kaunda in Musina. Hi, JC.
Hey, good morning, my girls. Are you well?
We are well.
Very
How are
well,
you?
thank you.
It's like you first rehearsed.
And we really didn't.
You feel like you've been doing this thing for a while, man.
Thank you so much.
You are doing wonderful, you are doing wonderful job, my girls. And I would like to appeal to the management, SABC, SAfm. This is the month of the youth. You should have started on the 1st of June up to the 30th of June. Doing this job, you understand? This is your month. You owe this month. Management away. I hopefully angikwani bakomphawuri ndikori mina. So
ndimuvenda ndikauya.
Oh,
very, very little, but I do understand Venda. Yeah, I am Venda.
Okay, really. But I would like to make an appeal,
Yes.
To those who played truant during their time at school. Those who ran away during short break and long break, today, please, they mustn't wear that uniform. They mustn't wear that school uniform. Otherwise, if they wear that school uniform, we'll take them back to the class. Yeah, because during that time, they didn't see the magnificence of that uniform. Today, I was saying, oh, but they ran during short break, long break. No, you mustn't do that. What I would like to say about the youth,
yes,
it's heartbreaking. What is happening to the youth of today? It's heartbreaking, it's sad, it's shame and a sin what is happening to the youth. 29 years into democracy, high volume of unemployed youth. You know what? The death of June 16 youth in 1976 was in vain. Why? Because the fruits of freedom is enjoyed by greedy and uncaring people who are running our government today. Sure. They are telling us day and night lies already. We have the preparation of the youth. They are doing this. They are doing nothing about the youth. If they were doing something about the youth, the high volume of youth should have been decreased. And then what I would like to say is, a visionary country invest in her youth. They prioritize the interests of the youth. But what is happening in South Africa today, and they must send them the I think this thing of saying South African constitution is the second best here in. If it was second best, why other countries are not copying it? It is just good in theory, but not in practice. But wait, government, wake up from your slumber. Wake up and do the right thing for our youth. Because now you are sitting on time bomb. Yes. Let me rest my case for now. JCK, Kaunda from Musina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that dynamic call.
Very dynamic. Thank you so much, JC. And we'd like to please encourage young callers to join in as well and to send in those WhatsApp voice notes. We are here to represent you as the young people of South Africa, and we have, expressed ourselves and our voices, and we'd like to hear the voices of the young people as well.
Indeed. I mean, I think it can't be Youth Day without hearing from the youth, and I know that we have a dynamic youth out there. I know we have a youth of passion. I know of personal close friends of mine right now who are currently planning a march. So this youth, it's a dynamic one. So I'm really excited to hear from the youth itself. But Onke, what do you feel about that call right now? What the points that he rose, how prevalent do you think they are, and what do you think are the solution to those?
We need more of our older generation to keep pushing us and to show that they are on our side. I engage with a lot of young people. And when I engage with them, they always express how they are not heard. As a young person, I'm not heard. As a young person, my opinion is that. And we are discussing education today. And the relevance of education, in my opinion, is to teach you how to apply your mind. Education was meant to teach you how to apply your mind. So all those equations you're doing at mathematics is not for you to cram them. It's for you to work your mind and to stretch it and to use your mind as a resource for better and a brighter future, of course.
Onke, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but let's take a spot break and we'll be back for more.
Great stuff.
What you are about to hear is the sound of me drowning. My name is Matthew. On 7th January 2023, a rip current swept me out to sea. NSRI's beach safety camera operators spotted me. They radioed local lifeguards and saved my life.
Drowning is swift and silent. Please, always watch your loved ones around water and help us keep saving lives like Matthew's at nsri.org.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
South Africa, Happy Youth Day on SAfm. With government drawing more young people into the economy, we celebrate Youth Month under this year's theme of accelerating youth economic emancipation for a sustainable future. SAfm, leading the conversation this Youth Day.
Hashtag SAfm Talking Point.
We're back from the break to continue on with our conversation.
Yes.
And I think a good segue to start talking about now, especially from our past voice note or past caller, is, and he mentioned that this idea of these students running away during break time. And I think that's a good segue into things like the dropout rates, into things like bunking rates, is the fact that even though students are going to school, their presence in school isn't there. And, you know, you said it beautifully that education or the schooling system is meant to teach you how to apply yourself. But unfortunately, learners aren't being engaged. Learners are dropping out, and perhaps the dropout rates aren't because of just the engagement. I mean, I saw some statistics of about 500,000 people dropped out in COVID-19 because of that lack of engagement. There was no school to go to. But I want to hear your thoughts on it. I want to hear your thoughts on how the school system can better retain learners, how we, or even learners ourselves, what can we do to facilitate a schooling system that is dynamic, to facilitate a school system that warrants this participation, because the numbers are showing that dropout rates are higher than ever, that even the children who are participating in school are not even participating on a full-time basis. And there is no monitoring of this because there are such huge classes and such appalling teacher-to-student ratios. These students go unnoticed. These students go 5-6 days without going to school and no one's there to notice. It's a really big problem. It's a really big problem at hand, and I want to hear your thoughts on it.
You know, I saw a joke on social media yesterday. They said no one should wear school uniform today. We should wear our academic regalia from university because Hector Peterson wants to see progress. We've been wearing school uniform for the past, I don't know how many years, but now we need to be in our academic regalia. And literally, that's what's on my mind right now. We need to progress. We need to progress with education, and the retention will come from the resources that we are speaking about. We've mentioned the word resources a lot, I think both of us actually, from the very beginning. And I did say that to apply your mind, apply is a verb, it's active, but what do you use to apply your mind? Because there are other stats that say that children up until grade 4 in South Africa, most of them can't read.
Yes, I've seen that.
You remember that one? Yes, most of them can't read. So what do they need for them to read? We need libraries. We need libraries at the schools. You spoke about the sports facilities earlier on today, but when was the last time anyone ever stepped into a library and you found a book that is going to teach you about everything in the world, from literature to this and that and that? So that's what is needed. Resources. Because we're also not the same. I mentioned earlier that I am a very dynamic individual. You know, some people are mathematicians, others are actors and actresses. Others want to do this space. Some of them want to be in that space. You also mentioned that you also want to do a lot with your life moving forward. So what do you need? You need the resources in order to keep you at the school, to say that not everyone is going to be a doctor or not everyone's going to be a lawyer, the traditional sort of... Exactly. So we need those resources in order to move forward and to say, hey, young person, I see your potential. Come and I will help you to reach your potential.
I'm glad you brought up the literacy rates that were released with the grade 4s, and I think it really does tie to why there is such a low learner retention. Is that by the time you reach grade 8 or high school, you have no idea what's going on. There are such gaps in your education that it often seems easier to just leave. You know, it often seems easier to opt out of the education system. And now I want to hear from Rose in Centurion. She's a young person like us. Rose, what are your takes? I'm excited to hear from you.
Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Can I just say before I start, you guys are killing it, making me very, very proud as the youth of today. Shout out to you guys, born free.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you guys, and man, the future looks so great for us. If we all have these kind of mindsets, we are doing so well. I think that one of you guys actually mentioned how Nelson Mandela said education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, right? I'm one of the people that believe that education is important. It makes us a better generation going forward. But I think that one of the things that make us success, guys, this is an issue that is not being talked about enough, and it is mental health. You know, us getting successful, us getting to points where we want to be in our lives. Obviously, there's education, but there isn't enough education in schools and universities that touches base on mental health. You know, you don't get people asking you, you're doing a course, but how are you doing? How are you feeling? You left Limpopo, you came to Johannesburg, you're now in a complete different setting where you go to UJ, and the whole transition, you know, now you are struggling with that, but you don't have that support structure to hold you down. And I think that right now we also need to put that out there, that we as young people go through a lot. I mean, we have social pressures, we have black tax, we have unemployment, we have so many things that actually could hinder you from becoming a success. I think that with education, we need to just be able to also find a way to reach the young people and talk about mental health and just making it awareness, you know, in South Africa and stuff like that. But yeah, guys, that's all I wanted to say. Great show. I am really enjoying it. And yes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rose, for that. And the comments on mental health support it's one thing that I think me and Onke are also similarly passionate about. I really think SAfm chose us and they said these two are one and the same. Yes. We're the same. I know together. We have big views on mental health, especially from people who come from these marginalized communities. But I think before we go into that, let's take some voice notes and hear what the listeners over WhatsApp are saying to us.
Good morning, SAfm listeners. Wow, Uncle Mitzi and Matilda doing a phenomenal job. I know the guys upstairs are going to make opportunities available for both of you. So on my side, I look at the fact that there's a lot of unemployed graduates that are sitting at home, and how much of that does create let me rather use the word lack of encouragement for others that are pursuing education as a key that opens opportunities. So maybe what do you guys think of that? And then the other one I wanted to just bring to the table is the decisions that are needed to be made by those in power to allow for opportunities, maybe like mass employment opportunities. What trade-offs are we willing as young people to accept for that to be a possibility? This is Champ in Midrand. Thank you.
Hi, this is Eugene from Newcastle. My issue is, as an assistant educator, right? What I have realized, that kids of today, they totally disregard education. I hear you speaking about public schools not having extramural classes after school, or sports. Kids nowadays, they actually are forced to study. As an educator, you stand there in front, you feel sorry for them. When you look at the results, and then you compare the results to the behavior, because you see them all wearing this latest fashion wear, knowing the latest trends. They're up to date with everything socially. But when it comes to academia, they are totally blank. I just don't know where these kids lost the whole plot. Thank you.
Sis Cathy, these ladies, they are good. They are very energetic. Look, man. Now what I want to know is this issue of 30%. I don't understand about this issue of 30% in our public schools. Because then after 30%, what do? You see? It's like they just pushing you to leave school and then sit in the townships, you see, because it's not quality, and I do believe that only quality education is the only thing that is going to empower ourselves as black children. But now, really, I have a problem with the 30% issue, because to me, it's not benefiting at all, I think.
Good morning, girls. I'm John. I'm a high school teacher. Just a quick contribution to your discussion. I think our biggest challenge is that our education system, irrespective of whether it's private or public, is irrelevant. 90% of what we teach our kids in school is not going to be of any use for them in real life. I think the biggest need is investment in practical education. We need to now start looking at having all schools looking at what are the needs of not the present generation, because the present generation's needs are already doctored. We need to start thinking, what do we need in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 30 years? Because as it stands, most of our kids in schools, they play truant because they don't see the relevance. They don't see the benefit. They don't see what they're actually benefiting from this system. That's my contribution. Thank you.
SAfm.
Ladies, let's be honest. From relationships to career challenges and straight up spilling the tea, no one gets it quite like your girlfriends. Step into the world of Tyler Perry's Sisters every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. on SABC2 to see how this squad navigates this thing called life.
The first ever African nation to reach the FIFA World Cup semis, Morocco, are ready to face Mzansi's Bafana in the return clash of the 2023 African qualifier in Group K. The Atlas Lions want to maintain their unbeaten run and finish top of the group, while Bafana are in good spirits and confident they can reinstate the days of glory. The South battles it out with the North. Catch the 2023 AFCON qualifier, South Africa versus Morocco, on Saturday, 17 June at 4 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, OpenView 124, SABC 1, SABC radio stations, also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm Youth Day Takeover.
It's hashtag SAFM Youth Day Takeover, and you are listening to Ongetlape and Matilda, and we are still leading the conversation on education. We listened to a couple of voice notes before we went on an ad break, and the one that stood out for me was the teacher that said that, children these days don't understand the need for education. They are up to date with everything else around the world but education. Like, I can imagine as a teacher standing in front of them trying to give them all this knowledge, and they look very uninterested. And I've spoken to a couple of young people, as I always mention. I speak to young people a lot, eh? Like, where am
The
I
joys
speaking?
of being young.
Yeah, the joys of being young. And they said that one of them was like, what's the use of education if I'm going to sit home and be unemployed? Why am I sitting in class and learning all these equations, Onge? Yeah. How are they going to help me? Because I'm still going to go back home and, still be without employment. And the same thing goes for the teachers, because some of the teachers will say that we are told to think about the black child when we give them marks. Mark, but don't be too hard on them. Don't be too hard on them. Think about the black child. Yeah. But are you thinking about the consequences of your actions on the black child in the future? And that is just some of the things that we really need to start considering as parents, as teachers, and as kids, as we have a responsibility upon ourselves as well. Matilda, what do you think?
No, the voice notes I think it brought up really key issues. And some few things that stood out to me was the young man who asked us about our thoughts on unemployment graduate and also government decisions. Yes. And I wanted to speak about the unemployed graduates. And I think we've been touching on this for the entirety of the show, which is the truth of when we talk about education, we have to talk about the fact that there are many people who are highly educated. I mean, people sitting with master's degrees who are unemployed. I have a teacher of mine, because she knew that I wanted to study something within the political and economic space. She put me in touch with someone who was a ambassador to Japan for South Africa. And I spoke to this ambassador to Japan. She said after the 2 years, she's been sitting home unemployed for 5 years because there's nothing else to do. And this is a woman with a PPE undergraduate and a master's on top of that. And now she's considering not even putting her master's on her CV because she's afraid that employers might see her as overqualified. That's where it is. It's at the point where women with, or not even women, I don't want to make it a women thing, South Africans, young South Africans with qualifications, with job experiences are sitting at home with nothing. And I know that can be disheartening. I'm sure it can be. What is your motivation if you fear that one day I may too sit at home? But I think it's important, though, that we realize, first off, that you are at a worse disadvantage without the degree than with the degree. That's the first baseline. Is that, yes, sure, you may fear that if I don't have my degree, what's going to happen? But the truth is, there are thousands more who have that degree. Where does that put you in the job market? That's the first place there. That getting the degree puts you at an advantage that you need right now in a scarce job market. But not only that we need to not only look at degrees as passports to employment, but we need to look at them as the acquisition of skills to do something. You know, if you find something that you are passionate about, find something that you feel as though there's a gap in society. I mean, there was a voice note that spoke about the fact that there's 90% of what we're learning is useless. Well, not you, but what he's saying is it's useless in what we need, the current job market of what we need and our future needs. Then that's what learners should do, is find the gap. Yes. Find the gap that you are passionate enough to fill, and let your education be in pursuit of filling that gap. And I think that's what needs to motivate us as learners. We need to not look at, let me try fill jobs. I mean, don't go for what is the most employable. Go for the gap in society that you can fill. There is entrepreneurship. There is startup starting. There is so much potential that we need to fill. Do not see a university degree as a passport to education, but please see it as an acquisition of skills. But on that, I think we need to go to Janusz in CTN, who wants to also comment on education. Janusz, what are your thoughts?
Hi, good morning to you, ladies.
Hello. Good morning.
Hi, and Cathy as well. I think you're doing a great job, and in the future, I think you're going to be a great presenters or TV presenters, radio presenters. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. But now, before that education, I would like to say something, because my name is Janusz, and very often, you know, I've got a conflict with some listeners and people around me. I'm different, Janusz, and first of all, I paid heavy price when I started educating black youngsters in the gold mine, and actually I lost the job because of this time of apartheid. You couldn't educate anybody who is the different color of the skin. Then I've got an NGO which for quite a long time, and for the long time I train many, doesn't matter, we shouldn't say black colors, whatever. I train many people on the building site, and I've got sometimes calls from many cities and the small villages telling me that thank you very much what you did. I've got a good life now because I'm professional now. I'm an electrician. I'm a builder. My heart is feeling well and feeling fine. But my point is of the education. If you go to education, why we are educating? We are preparing ourselves for the future, for the jobs. And if the education is proper education, definitely we can have an advantage of this. But of course, we know what's happening at the moment in our country, where is not much happening. And actually, I would say our president, instead of going there trying to deal, he should be here and solve the problem, our problems, because we've got a problem. We had to admit it. My point is also that
Janusz?
We've got a yes.
Sorry, I'm going to have to come in there. You know, I only come in when necessary today. And
yes,
it's absolutely necessary because it's just after 11 o'clock and it's time for the latest news. But thanks for that call, Janusz. Askies, sorry. We've got to go to you. We've got to go to news now. And of course, Unge and Matilda are going to be back in the next hour with more. Let's take you to the latest news update.
independent and impartial. This is SAfm News.
Thank you, Cathy, and of course to Onke and Matilda. In your top stories, an air raid alert in Kiev ahead of visit by African leaders, and a Mpumalanga man held over the death of his 4 family members. This is SAfm News. A very good morning. I am Luyanda Maume. An air raid alert has been issued in the Ukrainian capital Kiev as African leaders prepare to visit the region on a peace mission. President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Senegalese counterpart Macky Sall are heading a delegation to visit Kiev today and St. Petersburg tomorrow. Reports say the alert was issued after the Ukrainian Air Force announced that several Russian caliber missiles have been launched from the Black Sea, headed north towards Kiev. The BBC's Mayeni Jones reports.
This self-styled peace mission includes leaders from Zambia, the Comoros and Senegal. African leaders say their continent has felt the adverse economic impact of the conflict in Ukraine. The delegation is expected to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday before travelling to Russia to meet President Vladimir Putin the following day. The mission aims to encourage both parties to agree to negotiate a peaceful solution to the conflict.
Western Cape Premier Alan Winde says geopolitical concerns are getting in the way of South Africa remaining a beneficiary of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. He spoke to SABC News on the sidelines of an investment networking event in New York after engagements with the U.S. lawmakers in Washington earlier in the week.
There's some geopolitical stuff in South Africa that's really getting in the way, and there's a negative narrative at the moment, and we've got to change that, and we've also got to show that, and for me, representing a lot of the agricultural trade that takes place between South Africa and the US comes out of our province, and I've got to make sure that we are going to be able to continue that kind of trade.
The Department of International Relations earlier expressed some concern that the Western Cape was overstepping its mandate on foreign policy, while warning that the efforts of all provincial governments needed to be complementary to the position of the national government. Winde dismissed the notion that he was in the US to negotiate a carve-out for the Western Cape in terms of AGOA.
There's some geopolitical stuff in South Africa that's really getting in the way, and there's a negative narrative at the moment, and we've got to change that, and we've also got to show that, and for me, representing a lot of the agricultural trade that takes place between South Africa and the US comes out of our province, and I've got to make sure that we are going to be able to continue that kind of trade. Before I left South Africa, I phoned Ibrahim Patel to say I'm going to be talking about AGOA. We kind of spoke about some of the issues that they're facing, but obviously my responsibility is to the people of the province, to the businesses in the province, to building trade and investment, tourism.
A 32-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly fatally shooting his 4 family members and injuring another in Mkhondo in Mpumalanga. Police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says the victims are aged between 3 and 71. He says the suspect was arrested and will be charged with 4 counts of murder and attempted murder. Mdluli says the suspect will appear at the Piet Retief Magistrates Court on Monday.
Amongst the victims is a 71-year-old grandmother, 3 children aged 3, 8 and 10. Meanwhile, a 22-year-old woman was fortunate to be alive, though she's fighting for her life after being allegedly shot by the same suspect.
Humanitarian aid organization Gift of the Givers will be deploying teams to the Mbegweni area in Paarl today to assist residents who have been affected by heavy rains in the Western Cape. Gift of the Givers founder Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman says the severe rain has affected thousands of people by damaging homes and washing away personal possessions. He says they will be providing plastic overalls, warm meals, blankets, mattresses, non-perishable food and hygiene items. Suleiman says they also deployed the teams to Guguletu, Nyanga, Khayelitsha, Langa, Bishop Lavis, Mitchell's Plain, Grabo, Chatsworth, Atlantis, Strand and Philiastop. And finally, acting Free State Premier Ketso Makume has emphasized the importance of giving the youth access to information. Makume says this will enable young people to empower themselves. He was speaking at the Dr. Petros Molemela Stadium in Mangaung in the Free State ahead of the official commemoration of June 16 in the province. Different government departments have set up their stand for young people to interact with officials and gather information. Today marks 47 years since the 1976 uprising that saw students student protests over the use of Afrikaans as a language of instruction in schools. Makume says a coordinated approach is integral to dealing with the challenges facing the youth.
Indeed, most of young people are disillusioned because of the manner in which they have been exposed to this thing. It has been in a manner that it was in silos. One department will do something there which is linked to other agencies or to other financial sectors, but there wasn't any coordination and any coherence in what they were doing. So today's event is trying to bring some cohesion between and amongst these sectors that are going to help young people.
Recapping your top story, an air raid alert has been issued in the Ukrainian capital Kiev as African leaders prepare to visit the region on a peace mission. President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Senegalese counterpart Macky Sall are heading a delegation to visit Kiev today and St. Petersburg tomorrow. For SAfm News, I am Luyanda Maume. More news at 12.
SAfm has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. SAfm, leading the conversation through the month of June. This year, we are celebrating Youth Month under the theme Accelerating Youth Economic Emancipation for a Sustainable Future. As we commemorate the massacre of school children during the Soweto Uprising of 1976, we also celebrate the liberation of our beloved country. The students laid down their lives for the right to equal education. We salute them. #Youth Month on SAfm.
The Masked Singer is officially here. Join Mpho Pops and the panel of detectives J Something, Somizi Mhlongo, Stelo Shozi and Skumba Hlophe as they try and guess which celebrity is hiding behind the mask. 16 of your favorite celebrities will be doing everything in their power to hide their identity. The Masked Singer South Africa premieres Saturday on season 3 at 6 on SABC 3 at 6:30 p.m. with a rebroadcast on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. as well as Thursdays at 9:30 p.m.
SAfm Youth Day Takeover.
It's 9 after 11 o'clock. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point. We have officially been taken over. We've been taken over on
so
the
much
Talking Point by Onke and Matilda. How were you guys feeling? You had a fantastic hour.
So empowered. So I feel like the hour went by so
Too
quickly.
fast. Too fast.
I looked at the time and it was already 11 o'clock. I said, news? What news? What time is it exactly? What's going on?
No, it's been so much fun, and just even engaging with the youth, engaging with the listeners. It's been an experience. And what Onke is saying, it's like I kind of want to say, guys, can we rewind time a bit, or maybe let's give us an extra 2 hours. There's so much more to unpack. There's so much more to interact with. It's been an amazing experience.
You guys are doing so well.
Thank
you have
you.
been phenomenal. I'm loving the collaboration. All of the soft skills that they were talking about, Onke and Matilda have it on point. You know, it's a very smooth transition, especially for a first day. So you guys are doing very well.
Thank you.
This is now the second hour of the show. It's still your hour. Remember, I'm partially taking the day off. You know, get public holiday, and the youth must work today, and you know the rest of us must put our feet up and listen to what the youth have to say. So the second hour of the show, I understand you're going to be focusing on fatherhood.
Yes.
Sunday is Father's Day, right? Sunday is Father's Day, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you guys on your experience of fatherhood, the conversations that you're having amongst your friends with your friends about the role of fathers in our society.
Yes.
gonna hand over to you guys today. You see, I don't even have words. I have limited vocabulary, so I'm running out of the number of words I'm allowed to use on the show.
We'll take over.
The only thing left is goodbye for me at 11:59. Over to you, Matilda and Onke.
Yes, as you said, Cathy, we are leading up to Father's Day this coming Sunday, and we have a discussion on what it means to be a present father in modern society, particularly as many households are fragmented. I'm at an age where most of my friends are getting married, my guy friends. So they are fathers to 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds. And when I have these conversations with them, it's so lovely and so beautiful to see where they're leading up, because they want to be the fathers that they never experienced. And most of them, ironically, they are fathers to little girls. So, the day I get married, I'll have a train of flower girls that are ready for me. So they are very passionate about being present as the new generation, to say that we are stepping up and we want to break these generational curses and be present fathers. And of course, Matilda, with your experience, what have you seen?
I think Father's Day, I don't want to call it it's not a sensitive topic, but I think for a lot of youth in South Africa, myself included, it's one where we tread with caution. I want to use that word. I think the past generation of fathers, and we must understand that perhaps they grew up a bit traumatized, but traumas have been passed on, and Father's Day, yes, it's a time to celebrate fathers and it's a time to talk about present fathers, but I think in order to encourage fathers to be present, we need to show the effects on lives of non-present fathers or fathers who pass on traumas. I mean, for me, from personal experience, my parents are separated, going for a divorce, and I do predominantly live with my mother. And I have realized that the time that I spent with my father when they were married and now has significantly, drastically lessened. There's a gap. I think maybe perhaps it's that fathers don't know how to interact or how to navigate parenting when separated, but there is a gap. And I think it is important that young children have fathers. I know for me, there are times where, I've missed that, I've missed that thing of, Daddy, I want to come back home to you and tell you about my school day, or I want to come, just those little things of unwinding with your father and weekends with your father. And I think it plays an important role. And you and I were actually having a conversation, just telling each other about our life stories before all of this. And we were talking about how sometimes the traumas of parenthood or fatherhood now impact how you see partners, how you see relationships going forward. And what I mean by this is that, when there's this lack of a father or this lack of a present figure, oftentimes you start to fear for your own future, and you fear that this is what's going to be in your own future. And I know I think maybe that's my friends like to, there's certain friends of mine who like to encourage that I've been in a relationship, and I'm quite avoidant of that. Yes, sure, because I'm young, but a big thing of that is because of that trauma.
You should be avoiding relationships because you're 18. That's
exactly.
why.
Thank you, Auntie Cathy.
Mom Lydia, I know that you're supporting my motion. No boyfriends until 35. Thank you very much, Matilda.
But the point is that there's this aversion of relationships because of this past trauma, because you are afraid that what happened with my parents is going to happen with me. I'm afraid that, family dynamics, what happens with family in my family is going to happen to my children, and that fear of that generational curse, as you always, as you speak about, it's so prevalent. And I think it is an important, yes, I want to, celebrate present fathers, and I want to also say to my father as well, I mean, my father has, I think, also tried his best, but it is also important to recognize that there are gaps, that unfortunately there is no guidebook on how to navigate fatherhood. There is no guidebook on how to navigate distant fatherhood. I'd even call it when you're not in the same household as your children. And truth be told, there's a fix. There's a fix on the youth. There's a fix on children. And I will be honest in saying that I am on the receiving end of those fixes. How has your experience been? I know you told me that you are a product of teenage pregnancy.
Yes. My parents were 17, 18 when I was born. So it's the responsibility that you carry on your shoulders. You know, being raised by a grandmother as well, you know, those values are instilled upon you at a young age, you know, to do this, to do that at that point, at that time. And it's not all of us who get to reach the point that you want to reach. So the responsibility is also on the shoulders of fathers and mothers, of course, because that's what constitutes a household. And we like I said earlier on, I love how the current generation is carrying it, because you did say that there's no rule book, you know, with this life thing. You know, you have a child with someone, something happens. But what happens afterwards? You know, what about the child? So there's a lot of focus these days on the child, You know, people no longer leave their kids with grandmothers in the village anymore. You know, young people are taking care of their own kids. It's becoming a different narrative. And on Youth Day, as we lead up to Father's Day, it's nice to make that sort of connection to say that as a young father, as a young mother, how are you contributing towards the success of, you know, your child in the future? Yes.
This is a really interesting conversation that's unpacking, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go. But let's start with the spot break, and then we'll continue on with this conversation afterwards.
Great stuff.
SABC One has made a few changes to the primetime schedule. On Fridays, Deal or No Deal South Africa at 7:30 p.m. Tune into Ikaslam at 9 p.m. Kung Fu Movies at 9:30 p.m. Tune into SABC One, Mzansi, for sure.
With our rich natural resources, local talent, and investor support services, now is the time to uncover the KZN South Coast's many investment opportunities. Discover the potential of our key growth sectors, from manufacturing to agribusiness. With the launch of our Buy Local campaign, we're strengthening local businesses to unlock even more possibilities. Support local. Invest in the KZN South Coast.
The first ever African nation to reach the FIFA World Cup semis, Morocco, are ready to face Mzansi's Bafana Bafana in the return clash of the 2023 AFCON qualifier in Group K. The Atlas Lions want to maintain their unbeaten run and finish top of the group, while Bafana Bafana are in good spirits and confident they can reinstate the days of glory. The South battles it out with the North. Catch the 2023 AFCON qualifier, South Africa versus Morocco, on Saturday, 17 June at 4 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, OpenView 124, SABC One, SABC radio stations, also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm leading the conversation.
Night for a certain someone to turn on the lights. When you found that someone was not by your side, your mom had to wipe away your tears. You asked her why dad isn't here. When she starts to tell you that dad's working late, you say why come every day of the week. She answers you at work, go back to sleep. Your heart tells you something has changed. Why have they been acting so strange? Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to fear, 'cause your daddy loves you. I'm not going nowhere, and I won't give you up. I'm not gonna walk away. When it comes to you and I, nothing's gonna change. I'm here to tell you It's true that I live in a whole different house, but that doesn't mean that I won't come around. I'm still best of friends with your mom, have no doubt that we'll still make time to hang out. I promise I won't let you down. Well, I've got a room with your name on the door, your favorite things you could ever ask for. But then best of all, if you cry out at night, I'll be the one by your side, someone to help dry your eyes. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to fear, no, no, 'cause your daddy loves you. I'm not going nowhere, oh no, and I won't give you up. I'm not gonna walk away. It comes to you and I, nothing's gonna change. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be scared, 'cause I'm not going no, I'm not going no. I know you feel a little scared, I know you think it's not fair, you think it's all your fault, but it's not, I swear. If it wasn't for you, things could never be so cool. So I thank you for being the one in our life that showed both of us that we did something right. You don't have to fear, you don't have to fear, 'cause your daddy loves you, your daddy loves you, yeah. I'm not going anywhere, no, 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 and I won't give you up. I'm not gonna walk away. It comes to you and I, nothing's gonna change. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be, you don't have to be, you don't have to be scared. But I'm here to tell you.
And that was Not Going Nowhere by Babyface, a song that he wrote for his son after his divorce. He wanted to assure his son that all will be well after the divorce. And I think the song is important, especially with the conversation you and I have been holding with navigating, I like to call it distant parenthood, navigating parenthood when not living under the same roof. That even though a relationship, a romantic relationship does not work out with the mother, being there as the parent, being there as someone who committed to your child, and loving them and supporting them. And I think through this song, Babyface is saying that. Through this song, Babyface is carrying on that this is important. What did
Very
you think,
important
Wonke?
indeed. I love the song. I love the words that said, "Allow me to tell you, you don't have to fear. Your daddy loves you." So that one line makes such a huge difference in a child's life. And to extend more on the topic of fatherhood in 2023, we have on the line Ntate Tshepo Mokoena, who is the founder and chairperson of the Moving Ahead Development Agency, and he also runs the Boys to Men Mentorship Program. Hello, Ntate Mokoena.
Le kae mme?
Re teng le kae?
I'm fine. I know this is a English radio station, so maybe let's switch to English for the benefit of the others.
Yes, for the benefit of the others. So how are you, Ntate Mokoena?
I'm good.
Amazing stuff.
Still
Thank
going
you so
strong.
much. Yes.
Still going strong. Yeah.
Thank you so
Can't
much
complain.
for joining us today. We'd like to find out more about your mentorship program, Boys to Men. The name is very interesting. Was it named after the 90s band Boys to Men?
No, not really, but maybe the whole, like you have explained, I don't want to take much of your time, but I'm the founder and the chairman of a non-profit organization called the Moving Ahead Development Agency. That is like 4 pillars, and one of the pillar is skills and social development. So I then started looking at a lot of boys going into drugs, a lot of boys deteriorating. And then when I did my research, I realized that lots and lots of those young men, they are boys raised without father figures, not without without father figures. Okay. So then, and I took it that I was raised by a very loving father, but if you look at also our age, is the fact that our fathers in the olden days, they didn't care that much like we care, because all what they wanted to see was your report at the end of the year. They never accompanied us to school. They never asked us how school and everything, and that's it. And a little research that I've also done was that our fathers, technically, so they had 2 homes, and our fathers didn't want to divorce. And that has put a lot of pain in the children, because as much as divorce is bad, I think sometimes if you no longer love this particular woman, you must just throw in a towel and be honest with that particular woman and the children, unlike to double dip, because I think lots and lots of fathers, they double dip. They'll have a house somewhere and has a house here, and therefore there will be children who are going to struggle and suffer somehow. So I'm a divorced father, and I know when I got divorced with my ex-wife, it was a very painful exercise for my children. But it was also then I went to a lot of psychologists, but then I ended up realizing that it was actually good for my health. It was also good for my sanity and everything, because of I'm a happy person. What was the point of me maybe having a girlfriend in a townhouse somewhere, because of maybe I can afford it, and also to also have a very angry, upset wife sitting with children. So then I declared, and then everybody was not happy. But guess what? What was nice was that I got divorced 6 years ago, and I raised my daughter as a single father, and now she's in matric, and my son, he's actually now joining in. So technically, I'm staying with my kids. So they have always received the father love. And there's one phrase that I always tell my ex-wife. I always say to her, you remain the mother of my children, no matter what. If you run short of something and whatever, even if you've got a partner, whatever, please call me. You are this woman who showed me that I can bring children in this universe. So you remain the mother of my children. So I have, because of maybe I was raised well by both parents, I was more closer to my father. And then, but I was somewhere, I was very unhappy. So I took that decision. It was a bad decision, but I took it because of it was for my happiness, and it was also for her happiness. And I started realizing that we are now both happy, because from time to time we can call each other, but we are happy because unlike to be sitting there, and even if when I go and engage with another partner, I won't be double dipping, because once you start double dipping, that's where you are now. You're making kids very, very unhappy, very angry. Now you start focusing on children that are not yours and forgetting about your own children. And but once you are transparent and open, life becomes easy. Yes, it comes with a lot of pain, but it pays off in the long term, because of now you are open, and then you can actually even take your own children and introduce them to the other woman, or take the other woman, introduce them to our own child. And in fact, I'm trying to put up that whole project together. Said, let the old children meet and talk and have, because you automatically have a common father now going forward. And that's what needs to happen. But I had a very, I was raised well. I had a loving father. In fact, I was more closer to my father than my mother. Very funny. And yeah, so that's why maybe the Boys to Men concept came in there to say, I need to groom this young man, I need to skill this young man, and going forward, so still do it in a small scale now, because of my engagements with the other big companies. It has grown, but I still do it. But yeah, so that's what it is. I don't know if I've explained myself very well.
No, you have quite beautifully. Hi, Tebo. It's Matilda here. And just listening to your story and listening how you chose active parenthood, even though you divorced with your partner, it's such a beautiful phenomenon to hear of. And I hope that the generation to come learns from this generation to come learns from you. But I want to just talk about how you have highlighted yourself that a lot of these values that you learned was because you had a stable parent, you had a stable father who you even say you were closer to than your mother. I want to bring up to you that how do you feel that we can perhaps bridge the gap for young men who perhaps didn't have the same background as you, young men who grew up without their fathers, who grew up without knowing what a father figure is? How do we better bridge the gap so that they can learn these values that you have so visibly taken to heart?
Okay, let me tell you something very interesting and something that I can just praise myself for. It's when I was running the Boys to Men. Remember, I take 5 boys from each province, so I have 45 boys, and then I host them in Johannesburg. So I started then asking the same question that to those boys: Why are you angry at your dad? Why are you not close to your dad? Why this? And they told me different stories. I can tell you that out of the 30 boys, the first program out of the 30 boys that I engaged with, I've actually reconnected those boys with their fathers. I went to their fathers and said, "This is your son," and sometimes you get very robust and angry a stepmother who says, "No, I don't want this child." But what I've done is I've reconnected those boys to their fathers. I said, "This is your son. It does not matter unless if it's something else or otherwise." But maybe I've done and bridged that gap in the small scale because I have reconnected those boys to their fathers. Wow. Some of them, they're at university now because I started this program in 2016. Some of them, they're actually working and they send me WhatsApps and everything and say, look, some of them, they send me pictures with their biological fathers. And some fathers, they actually send me messages and say, thank you. I was even scared to go and approach my son because I left my son when the mother was pregnant. You see, so yes. that's how but I think it's a baby step. I think what we then need to do is we need to sit down as men and be open, because a lot of men can stand. Not men won't go out television, radio and talk about this. One men will think that being divorced or being challenged and everything, it's a bad thing. We hide, you understand? But maybe we must start talking to lots and lots of men to say that what is affecting you in your marriage, what is affecting you in your relationship, what is wrong and everything. Yes, a lot of people say divorce is bad, but sometimes divorce might not be bad. Divorce might actually give you a breather and make you to be open and honest. But what is important, it's you've got to take your children along. There is no way that you can leave them behind. I've got a friend. I've got a friend who just recently divorced now, and he was very, very angry with the ex-wife because of the ex-wife just walked out of the house, 5 years left, and he raised two children, a boy and a girl, and he was so angry at the ex-wife. I said, you know what, my brother, you must forgive that woman because we don't know what went wrong and everything, but he remains the mother of your children. I think if we can adopt that concept both to say, this is the father of my children, this is the mother of my children. If anything happens, if there are issues, if there are problems, we must come together and say, you know what I've also done? I think even though it's subsiding, I actually adopted a system that every 2 months I would sit down with my 2 children and my ex-wife and we'll have lunch. And that's it. I go my way, she goes her way. I go with my children, or she takes the boy, I takes the girl. Either way. But that is the relationship I have created, and I think divorced fathers must adopt that, and they must go because of there's this saying that you don't have. There's an ex-wife ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, but there's no ex-child.
Wow.
You can't say that's my ex-child. You say that's my child. And you can't say to your father who never cared about you and say that's my ex-dad. You say that's my dad. So maybe we need to embrace that and move forward. Yep.
Tepo, wow. But I also want to highlight that within our conversation, you've spoken about the fact that you went to psychologists. You've also spoken about the fact that you've had a big emphasis on talking about, feelings and talking about and being vulnerable and sharing this. I want to know from you, as someone who has, male friends, as someone who has male family members, how can we create a space for young men to feel like that they can share? How can we create a space for young men to know that their mental health is important? Because clearly from what you're saying is that mental health is the key to this reconciliation. This vulnerability is the key. How can those around these people create this space for them?
You know, when you look at people who take drugs, there's always this a norm that they sit around. I mean, even you look into movies and everything, you find these people sitting around, and they'll put you in the middle. Then you'll tell everybody how you went into drugs or into alcohol. And I think also as men, we must start doing that, where we sit around as men, and then we can then put you into the middle, and then you can tell us why you are angry, why you got divorced, why this. And I think maybe that will also change, and we can copy the whole system, because the society is very, very angry currently. My boy was very angry after my divorce. He was very angry at me, but I had to go through it. So yeah, maybe it's ongoing engagement, ongoing outreach programs and so forth, which is not very, very easy, because that in most cases, men, they grandstand. I mean, you can also look at my niece was killed through femicide, I had more support from women than men. Men were grandstanding. Men were not saying anything, even though we have been called trash and whatever. But men didn't stand up. Men didn't say, I'm a man who won't abuse. I'm a man who won't do this. So by nature, we withdraw. So maybe we must come up with programs that would allow us to say, going to a psychologist is not the wrong thing. Talking to Tsepo is not the wrong thing. Talking to Lebu is not the wrong thing. Talking to my best friend is not the wrong thing. And we must move away from the notion that with women, when they have challenges, whatever, they rally around and talk and guide each other. That's why you'd find women will stay in a very abusive relationship for the sake of the children and so many things. Okay, vis-a-vis a man. When men sit around and I come to men and say, hey, this woman is giving me problems, this. The first thing they'll say, I'm here. You understand?
Yeah.
Yes, that's I mean, as simple as that. You understand? They will never say, hey, in fact, why don't you go to a psychologist? Why don't you try this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? Have you listened to her? But with us, we go to the quickest solution.
Yes.
You understand? Or tolomonyacho. That's it. You understand? You understand? And but with you women, I'm not a woman, but my thinking is with you, because of you go to societies and everything, you sit and that's why you'd find that thing give us carte blanche to move around sometimes, is because we don't sit around and talk about these issues. We talk about any other things, but not these issues. Maybe it's about time that we start bringing these sessions together where we talk about our marital problems going forward.
Yes. Ntate Mokoena, thank you so much for those insights. We will get back to the conversation after the break. And then after the break as well, we'll be playing a couple of voice notes from young fathers. And we encourage other young fathers to send through their voice notes. Our WhatsApp line is 061 4104 107. And to call in as well, the line is 086 000 2032.
From Khayelitsha to Musina, our money crisscrosses the country, connecting communities. Now our banknotes and coin look a little different with upgraded security features and new designs celebrating our heritage. But don't worry, your trusted rands with the new designs and the older ones are still worth the same. So go on, use both with confidence. Our money, our pride. SA Reserve Bank, connecting us.
What you are about to hear is the sound of me drowning. My name is Matthew. On 7th January 2023, a rip current swept me out to sea. NSRI's beach safety camera operators spotted me. They radioed local lifeguards and saved my life.
Drowning is swift and silent. Please, always watch your loved ones around water and help us keep saving lives like Matthew's at nsri.org.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
South Africa, Happy Youth Day on SAfm. With government drawing more young people into the economy, we celebrate Youth Month under this year's theme of accelerating youth economic emancipation for a sustainable future. SAfm, leading the conversation this Youth Day.
SAfm, leading the conversation.
Good day, good morning, SAfm. It's Tapiso Fontaine. You know what? As a young father, got 2 little daughters and a son. Sometimes we are not. We are not doing it intentionally to be away from the kids. We want to spend as much as we can with our kids, but mothers tend to have this arrogance and thinking that they are the only ones that has the rights towards the child. In my case, I had to go to the family advocate for me to access my daughter. The daughter was staying with me in Bloemfontein. The mother took the daughter away from me for no reasons apparently, and she demanded I increase the maintenance towards the child while she's not working. How can you do that to a father? I have to see my kids now, my daughter, at only school holidays. You see, sometimes it's very difficult. I want to be that hands-on father towards my kids.
Good morning, Oscar Day, and good morning to SAfm Takeovers. Ladies, good morning. I hear you. That good English, we hear it. Yeah, I'm a young father, 36 years of age, and yeah, a truck driver of that matter. And yeah, I've got 2 children, my son, who recently passed all his subjects and failed Afrikaans, and he's told he cannot advance. So I don't know what you think about this education system that you guys are going through. And yeah, I'm a present and absent father in the same breath, because I'm always on the road, driving up and down, doing service to the country. But life goes on. And yeah, good luck to you ladies. And yeah, please change the narrative. I can hear you guys. You are up there. Please change the narrative and take over even the country, please.
SAfm, leading the conversation.
And yes, we are back with the good English to take over the radio and the country.
Indeed, definitely the country. That's the next goal.
That's the next goal. So, Matilda, how do you feel about some of the voice notes that were sent to?
I think what stood out to me was the first voice note who spoke about access to his children, because I think it's important. We need to be careful not to just shame fathers. It's not about shaming fathers. It's about opening a conversation. And he brings up a good point that unfortunately sometimes fathers are willing. Sometimes fathers are desperate to see their children, but unfortunately access isn't there. And that now goes to legal systems and the fairness that needs to be in legal systems. That fathers need to be seen as equals as mothers, because a child cannot be raised without one or the other. We need both.
Person of Moving Ahead Development Agency, and he also runs the Boys to Men Mentorship Program.
And Dr. Tepo Mukwena, just reeling back in from our conversation before the break, in the very beginning of the conversation, you spoke to us about the fact that the main cause that you entered this with was the drug problem in young boys. And this brought up some questions, I think, amongst us this side, that what other issues have you identified as the consequence of, a fatherless homes? You've spoken about how children on drugs has come out of this, but I'm interested to find out from you that in this engagement with these young men, what other consequences are there for young men who grow up without their fathers?
Well, I think the most important one is love. They don't feel loved because from time to time, one would take your son to McDonald's and everything, and when you go to school, other children will have a uniform. Other children will bring food in the nice food containers, what do we call it, scarfing and so forth, and whatever. And others won't bring anything. So, and the conversation would be that, wow, I was with my father, we went to the zoo, we went. So that brings up a lot of anger to the boy who does not actually has a father or a father figure for that matter, and also the fact that a young man grows, there's a boyfriend who's there, who is bossy, who abuse the mother physically and emotionally. That brings a lot of anger to this young man because he's very young, he can't do anything. And the fact of the matter is, if this was my father, he wouldn't do this to my mother. You understand? So the anger goes now more deeper to the father to say that, where is my father? Why is he not looking after us? Why is he not looking after this woman? You understand? So anger is the key thing, and it also affects your education. It also affects your ability to do things, because you must understand, when you are depressed, you actually sleep the whole day. You can't do much, and it also leads to crime. I mean, I from time to time visit the juvenile in the prisons and want to know, why are you here? You understand? And you'd find that 70-80% is because of, I didn't have a father, my mother was struggling, and then I decided to go out meeting your panda, and I was arrested.
Ntate Mokwena, very interesting point. I just want to hear from Ukwenya, one of our callers from Polokwane. Hello, Kwenya, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you guys?
We're perfect. Great. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you so much, and thanks so much for taking my call this morning. I'm a young man. I'm a father, and I've in this province only, I've rehabilitated over 50 young yuppies. I'll use that word. 50 young drug addicts in the province only. And I didn't use a pill. I didn't use any medication. All I did when I met these young boys, whenever I picked them from the street, I start with the most powerful pill, which is love. That I'm not going to talk about love. And you find our parents can no longer be parents today because they don't know how to love. We were not taught love as black people. Black people, when coming to love is foreign to us. For example, you know that your mother loves your dad. They've been together for maybe 20, 25 years. But you hardly hear them telling each other that they love each other. So,
yes, absolutely.
Yes, and then if one day something whenever they're celebrating Valentine, and I love you, Kunat might be shocked to say, hey, honey, what or is there anything wrong with you? Because love is foreign in our culture.
Yes,
and you find out these boys, they lack love. Right. All they need is love. So, but our parents, they think love is money. They replace love with money. They give these boys money, and then with this money, they are trying to access love. And when they come back from rehabilitation center, they relapse. Yes. Why do they relapse? When they come back home, you still remind them of what they did in summer. You still call them with names. So therefore, they will leave home. they go and join other Nyaupe addicts because they love each other. And when they see you coming back, they will even hug you, even make a party for you to say, welcome back home. Where were you? They hug each other. They love each other. Recently, there is this one they call a Bluetooth, where they Bluetooth each other. I take your blood, you take my blood because I'm high, then you're going to be high. That's how much they love each other. They share blood. They share love. They find love on the street, which they are not getting at home. So if we black people, we can learn love and be raised with love, we are going to be a nation that will be all right. These young boys will feel loved at home. You know, just to pick up a phone and say to a brother who's going through a lot, because boys in this country, they are born with dads. You know, already you owe some lady money that was somewhere whom you don't even know. So already they feel pressure. So if you can just pick up a call and say, my brother, I love you. We have got recently in the country what we call Majida Monday. Majida Monday is basically made just to appreciate boys in the country. To say, you know what? I know the system doesn't favor you. The economy doesn't favor you. You are out of job. They say you are not a man enough because I own a van, I own a car. But listen to me. I love you. That will fix our country.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Gwenya. That is such a
relevant. Begins at home. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Ntate Tsepo, go for it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm saying they say charity begins at home. For you not to have love is because you have never received love. Maybe I want to agree with the caller that, you know, maybe going forward as parents and lovers, we also need to practice, you know, this whole ideology of calling good morning love in front of our children. I love you, baby. You know, you bring flowers and this and that. You celebrate birthdays and everything, because that is the sign of love. Because to talk is cheap, but action is the most powerful thing. You understand? You say that, you know, maybe on a Friday, you say, no, guys, we're not cooking. I will, as a father, I will prepare some chips and everything, and then, you know, sit around in a table, because we hardly sit around nowadays. It's like in the olden days. You know, you find that we focus more on our phones. When we sit in the house, this one is on Twitter, the one is on Facebook, the other one is at whatever, the mother is on TikTok and everything, and all such a thing. So, but maybe we need to come and embrace that thing that maybe once or twice in a week we sit, we put our phones away, and then we eat and we talk our challenges, things that doesn't make us happy, how maybe you have said certain things to me in a nasty way, but we can hold hands and put a small prayer and say, you know what, guys, no matter what, we love one another. Because you can only practice something that you get. You understand? Yes, you can only practice something that you get. If you don't get love, I mean, I speak to this gruesome young murderer in prison. I said, what does it take you to pick up a knife and stab somebody 10 times? He said, then this young colored boy says to me, listen, bro, I have never experienced love.
Sure. No, that's scary. That's scary.
That's deep.
True.
So love is important. So it is important that even to pick up a call to tell your partner, babes, how you doing? How's work? I love you.
Yes.
You know, do you know, I've picked up my daughter from school from grade 1. She's in grade 12. I have made a point that I drop her and pick her up. And I know I was criticized by my friends to say, your daughter, she's 17. Why do you still pick her? She can go in and Uber and everything. I said, you know what? I said, number one is love. Number one is communication. Number one is we can share a lot. Number 3, which is more important, my daughter is going to university next year.
Yes.
I'm now, you know, this is the last part where I need to be closer to her and share. You understand? But that's love.
Ntate Mokwena, thank you so much for your contributions and all that you have shared with us in this conversation. I think it's been incredible to hear how you've gone about tackling what can be very difficult issues in your own context. And we really appreciate your time on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Sure.
And those two young girls, what they need to also teach to other young girls is to be confident. You know, confidence is the most important thing. If you can go on radio and talk at the rate that they are talking, that's confidence. Because if you don't have confidence in life, you'll never go anywhere. Definitely. And that's why I actually taught my daughter. She was singing in front of her peers and the parents in a parents meeting, and she says, "Dad, how do I sing in front of 2,000 people?" I said, "That's how you gain confidence." But I'm proud of the two girls, and you must take this whole notion to the other girls. Confidence will take you everywhere in life.
All right, Ntate Mokoena, thank you so much for that, and happy Father's Day for Sunday.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. I understand you've got one more caller.
Yes, we do. We have Tabang in Centurion waiting. Tabang, may I please ask you to just keep it short because we are running out of time. But what are your thoughts?
I'm going to keep it nice and sweet.
Thank you.
But before that, I think our Cathy must go back for maternity leave. 3 months so you guys can take over.
Tabang, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
We are also ready.
You don't have to ask me twice.
All right. I withdraw our Cathy. But let me say this. I think I died with the disappearance of my father. But I came back to life with the birth of my son. I just parked on the side of the road now. I'm driving my family to Matatiela. I'm driving through Underbeck now. And I felt I need to give my contribution towards this discussion. The pain of growing up without a father leaves too much scars to even get to express. But the realization that the value of the presence as a father to your kids and the contribution to their well-being gets to do away with the pain that you grew up with. Hence, I said I died with the disappearance of my father, and I came back to life with the birth of my son.
Sure.
And in actual fact, I have 2 now. So I came back to life twice. So but kids have 7 lives or 9 lives. I'm gonna multiply. I don't know how many times. Now, Cathy, let me not waste 18. Your time. Please go back. Lies. Please go back. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Tabang.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that call, Tabang. And I love how you phrased it there. And I think that fatherhood itself brings out something in some individuals that at least helps them commit even greater to the journey of fatherhood. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our 3 hours together. You have been exceptional.
Thank
you. You have been absolutely exceptional. So smart, so incisive. I love how you were engaging with everything that our guests have said, how you were sharing your own personal stories just with the topics that you've taken on today. And I really am encouraged about what both of you are going to be able to do with your lives into the rest of the future. I was hoping that we'll have a chance to ask more just about what you guys are going to be up to just in your lives and in your careers, but we're out of time. So you each have 5 seconds to say goodbye.
Okay.
Okay. 5 seconds.
5 seconds to say goodbye. Oh, thank you so much to everyone, my family. People are sending WhatsApps. I can't answer everyone at the same time I'm on the radio. And for the listeners and the voice notes and for the reception at SAfm, it's been amazing. What I'm up to with my life, I'm hoping to continue pushing the advocacies that I have, which is mental health, education, and women empowerment. And Matilda, your turn.
Thank you so much, SAfm, first of all, for having me. It's been an experience and a half. I want to say thank you also to my friends and family. I know there's some of my friends listening. If you guys actually did listen, I love you guys. You're my pillars of strength. So are my family. So are everybody who's just supporting me and loving on me. What I want to do with my life. At 18, I think that's a big question to ask someone. But I can tell you that I'm passionate about following this. I'm passionate about following education, making sure that it's accessible, making sure that it gives children opportunities that they deserve, and mental health as well.
You see how I know both of you would make great radio hosts. First time on duty, already going over time. Time for us to get out of here. Update at noon, up next.
SABC2 brings you scintillating music specials every Sunday. So kick back and take your front row seats to some captivating stars of our time. From Ed Sheeran